moja na Wakenya na walitupatia majukumu ya kuendesha serikali hii ya Kenya mbele kwa muda ambayo tumepatiwa.
Appearing to blame Odinga for his rules, Ruto said together with Uhuru, they asked Kenyans for the mandate, asking the opposition to do the same instead of appearing to interfere with the current regime.
Wale wengine ambao wameleta fitina, wangoje tuende kwa uchaguzi. Uwezi kuja kutoea serikali ambayo wewe hukuunda ama namna gani? Si waende watafute vile tulienda kutafuta. Na watatukuta huko tukitafuta pia.
TRT MP William Kamket has been released on a 1 million shillings bond with a surety of a similar amount or an alternative cash bail of 800,000 shillings. Nakuru Chief Magistrate Elizabeth Muthui granted the MP freedom and issued orders restraining him from intimidating or contacting witnesses identified by the police, as well as discussing or making statements relating to the matter pending hearing and determination of the case. The court has also barred Kamket from visiting areas of Olmoran and Amaya without informing the police. Now, Kenya has reported 511 new COVID-19 infections in the last 24 hours based on a test sample size of 7,955. The Ministry of Health says the new infections had a positivity rate of 6.4%. Total confirmed positive cases are now 245,337. These as we expect to receive the first consignment of Pfizer vaccines today. Healthiest Muthui and US Ambassador to Kenya will be at JKIA to receive the vaccine donations at 2 p.m. Tomorrow at 6 a.m. the government will also receive the first consignment of Sinopharm vaccine from China. This comes days after Health CAS Masi Mwangangi said that the government was set to receive the vaccines that are going to enable the country achieve the 10 million target.
We are optimistic that we'll be able to hit our targets. Largely in terms of, the national vaccine program, right now we're actually anticipating to receive Pfizer vaccines. Within this week to next week, we should be having the Pfizer vaccine in the country. And we're also anticipating to receive the Sinopharm vaccine again in the coming week or two. And so really in terms of stocks, we are happy. We should be able to meet our targets that we've shared with you, 10 million doses by December.
The immediate former Harambee Stars coach Jacob Ghost Mulee has cited that his departure as the head coach was due to personal reasons. Mulee stated that he was having a difficult time and he believed that he could not carry out his coaching duties effectively. He was speaking on Radio Jambo.
Baada ya mechi mbili, baada ya draw mbili, moja ya Uganda hapa na draw ya Rwanda, nafikiri tulipokaa chini tukazungumza bila wasiwasi wote, tukaelewana na shirikisho kwamba I think the best way ni mimi niwaachie sasa mtu mwingine aweze kuangazia, kwa sababu nilikuwa na mipango yangu ya Mali alafu pia Uganda. Lakini nikasema I might not be doing a good work for Kenya kama naendelea kukaa pale na labda mimi mwenyewe niko na issues zangu personal. Sitakuwa nikipatiana 100% kwa Harambee Stars.
This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto.
SpiceFM.
It's getting hot in here.
Oh, everybody steals. It's better a thief who brings something small back. And I say to myself, there's no better thief. A thief is a thief, period.
All those bribes, how much they are getting per year, how much inconvenience they are causing. As much as you call it a small case, it's worth it to be convicted.
The truth is, we are a tribal nation. Because if we were not tribal, and I want to go back to this, you cannot continue walking around with a mug which is clean outside and it's rotten inside.
We have become a fuliza country. We have mortgaged our country because of debt.
You've got one chef working and the assistant.
SpiceFM. Nyeri.
We are at the tail end of the week. What does it look like on the roads today? Indicative of what the weekend shall be. All right, so if you were on Mombasa Road last night, it doesn't look the same this morning. And so certain parts of the road that you would have used around the Maradaima stretch, that has been reduced to one lane. Likely to see heightened levels of traffic inbound to the city this morning, but we're going to take it all in stride and see what it looks like in a short while. It looks like most of the city is at a dull roar today, at least for now. Let's see what it looks like in a short while. But not to worry, not too much traffic coming off the Thika Superhighway. The southern, eastern and northern bypasses looking pretty good right about now. So let's keep an eye on things this morning. Help us out. SpiceFMKE on Twitter and text on 40127. Keep things moving this Friday morning.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric
A very
Latin,
good morning
agent
to you.
provocateur.
Happy Friday, Kenya's biggest conversation on the 17th day of September 2021. Welcome to the Situation Room, wherever you are tuned in. Siti, habari yako?
Habari yangu ni mzuri sana, Bwana Eric.
Very good.
Na je, wewe habari yako iko namna gani?
Habari yangu ni njema.
Yes, na wewe sister, Ndu?
Sister, Ndu?
Yes, habari yako.
Mzuri sana.
Wewe.
Habari yangu.
Oh, habari yangu. Thank you very much. Welcome, well done.
Thank you.
Habari yangu yako ni poa.
Na yako?
Yangu? Yangu ni mzuri sana.
Poa sana.
Esther Kashanja is already locked in from Australia, Sydney. Hey! Welcome everybody from wherever you tuned in. Even our people in South Africa, they must be awake.
They must be.
Yeah, we should do for them a South African song. I have one.
Okay, sorry.
Wahambanati, oh Wahambanati, oh Wahambanati, siyabonga Jesu, siyabonga. Huh? You know that song?
That's a good song.
It's a man called Soli Mahlangu.
Excellent.
Yes. We're going to have interesting conversations today. A man of the Lord, man of the cloth, will be joining us at 8, and this is the provost of the All Saints Cathedral. He's what? Right Reverend Samuel Wainaina. As he's coming here today, you know, we already have leakage from his Archbishop on what the sermon this Sunday
is going to be.
We know it's going to be marching orders. Well, not marching, but just orders to stop marching.
Stopping orders.
Not standing orders.
Cease and desist. That will be it. And then at 7 o'clock, let's have a conversation about consumers. So everything that happens for consumers, people wonder, are consumers left to their own devices to fend for themselves when traders and business people are just doing their own thing? Very many things to consider. One, products. There are some products that, you know, you go to the market and you find a product and says, this product contains this, and the other ingredients. Is it true that it contains what they've written there? And if it isn't, if it doesn't contain what's written there, what do you do? What's your recourse? There are consumers. Remember, we had a conversation about bread and the KEBS and the Competition Authority had done a crackdown on bread. You say this bread is 500 grams. Is it? What if
actually?
It isn't?
Do you know, that is a good way to start. Does this box of matches have 100 sticks?
Yes.
But more significantly, when you say this bread is whole wheat, is it whole wheat or whole meal? Is it whole?
Is it really?
Or is it just coloring?
Yes. When you say it's fortified
What
flour,
you,
is it really fortified, like
yes.
you're saying? Or is it just stories that you're giving us?
You know, let me tell you, there's some semakweli in this one. If you're diabetic, you are allowed to eat bread, but you're told whole wheat, whole meal. Okay? And your body will tell you.
If it's not.
Oh, yes, your body tells you. Your body tells you.
So you can actually, in like countries whereby this regulation and law is actually quite strict, if you do then end up eating something and then your body tells you, then you have sustainable grounds
Believe
to
me,
sue.
there is evidence.
Yes.
All you need to do is check your sugar levels,
Yeah,
and
you
you
can
will
tell.
tell.
And you'll
that
trace
this one
and say,
doesn't.
this is what I ate that triggered this.
You can tell. It is as clear as day and night.
Yep. So that issue of misrepresentation by marketers and by producers of products is a big one. And the Competition Authority will be here this morning to talk about that and tell us, so if I encounter this, where do I go? And what have you been doing? That's their mandate, to make sure that those things don't happen in the market. So they'll tell us what they've been doing. There's and more conversations coming up in the Situation Room. COVID-19?
Yep. Continues the rounds around the world, and we will probably still see the conversations gear towards and still, steer and stay on vaccinations and what's happening concerning that. All right, so we're still looking at upwards of just over 5 million vaccinations having been carried out in the country, and understanding that the Ministry of Health is still insisting that what we do is stay on course. Now, looking at the numbers having been found in Kenya over the last 24 hours, again, still under 500 cases. Again, not quite sure if we can connect the two, but lower cases and hopefully more people being vaccinated. Okay. According to the Ministry of Health, as of yesterday, 5,356,780 people having been vaccinated so far, right? So yesterday the cases went to 511 new cases, but small in terms of numbers from a sample size of 7,955. That keeps the positivity rate at 6.4%. If we remember the World Health Organization requirements, is that we're trying to keep them under 5%. If your positivity rate can be under 5%, then you seem to be doing a good job. 12 cases having been reported in terms of death. It takes the numbers so these numbers have been recorded or reported over a 30-day period. Okay. Now, there are countries now that are now looking at how do you deal with COVID. Italy now is requiring all its workers to show a green pass certificate. What does this mean? That it is going to make it compulsory for all workers to have a COVID green pass. So that is proof of vaccination or a negative test or recovery from COVID. They're the first in Europe and some of the strictest in the world. Anyone without a pass will reportedly face suspension from work and may have their pay stopped after 5 days. It will come into force on the 15th of October, and they're trying to boost vaccinations around the country. So we're saying the conversation is happening around the world. How are you going to get more people vaccinated? Well, here in this case, in order to earn your livelihood, you're going to have to show up with what they're calling this COVID certificate.
Yeah.
If you don't have it, you could be suspended from work. You could be suspended without pay. You could lose your job. So this is in all federal buildings. This is across train stations, cinemas, restaurants, gyms, swimming pools. And if you want to access any of these areas, then you must have it. And this is provided digitally, and it's also provided on paper. School staff also required to show a pass. Some teachers have reportedly been turned away from work already, even before the 15th of October. The government approved this new law very quickly and extended requirements to all workplaces and employees across all sectors, including those who are self-employed. So nothing just like the federal suggestion that's being made in the US.
Public workers.
Not just like, exactly. The US is talking about federal workers. Let's see if we can do this. Italy has said public, private, government, everybody. It doesn't matter where you are, even if you are self-employed.
How many have they vaccinated so far? What's the percentage of the population that's received the vaccine?
So nearly 65% of Italians have now been fully vaccinated, but infections have been rising due to the daily Delta variant. Remember, Italy was one of the countries that was hardest hit in the initial stages of COVID.
Yep.
And the government is saying, you know what, we're not going back there. We would like 100% of the population to be vaccinated, and we can see that there's a lull right now. So guess what? If we have to force you to do it
So the 20% are people who are just hesitant.
The 35%.
The 35.
Yes. are people who are hesitant. Businesses and staff could face fines of up to 1,500 euros if people are found to be working without this valid green pass.
Where? This thing will show us things. This COVID. Because they'll get to that level again, like we've seen in Israel, where, yes, a sizable percentage of your population has received the full dose, and then you still see rising infections, and then you think, all right, so let's start giving the booster dose. I don't know.
But you know
these
what?
Passes and passports and all.
You've actually hit the nail on the proverbial head, because it will unearth many things and it will test very many systems. You see, like the First Amendment, the freedoms that the Americans enjoy and the freedoms that they have led the world in for the longest time, COVID is going to test that freedom in ways that you could never have imagined.
Could test the freedom, or then test, also as I see it, test the reality that perhaps those freedoms could fly in the face of.
Actually,
to now ask yourself, these freedoms that we are saying we're going to give everybody, could they then not be dangerous to ourselves at the same time?
The things about freedoms that are often not mentioned are the responsibility that must accompany the freedoms. And the responsibilities will be tested, because here you have the state, you have the government, they have a responsibility to the citizen.
To protect.
The citizens have a responsibility when it comes to the laws of the country and to each other. Now, COVID, unfortunately, by its very nature, is something that the government doesn't spread. It is you, the individual, who spreads it to another individual. So what is your responsibility towards your fellow citizens if you are not vaccinated, and you therefore fall into the category of people who are most likely either to receive the virus or
the vaccine,
or to transmit it? And yet, what stands in between is something called a vaccine. Now, so
governments also now get to realize that communication is important.
Absolutely so.
Because these rights that you talk about, you also have a responsibility to make sure that people get to understand exactly what you mean. That issue of just issuing orders and speaking instructions and saying just because a few people understand, so everybody else should understand what the minority understands. No,
that is a very valid point, because just because it is written doesn't mean that people understand it.
Let's take a break. It's 19 after 6. A very good morning. Live streaming to the world and also broadcasting on SpiceFM to the country.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Forgiveness is always conditional. Even before God, there's nothing like unconditional forgiveness.
Government doesn't pay you pension until you retire. In fact, they have no money for you. The day you retire, they look for it.
This country is punishing many young people. These young people are more susceptible to be deceived, to be taken advantage of, and they're more susceptible to be bought off.
Let us also talk about where we want our country to go. You know, we are a population of very young people.
We're in a state of capture. The judiciary is under duress. Parliament is in the pocket of the executive. You don't sit and wait for the regime to topple itself. It will never do so.
By the way, let me tell you, these guys are so persuasive. I'm telling you, they can persuade you to sell your grandmother. I'm telling you, they can sell sand in the desert.
Ceci, has anybody on this program said to you as a guest, saying, "Oh, shut up, we don't want to be told what to do"? Has you ever that kind of... Has anybody been
I will not listen.
A bit of advice? Because you're working on the premise that we should all pay heed to these proverbs. It's a very suspect notion.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
This morning in Nairobi, it's partly cloudy at 14, highs of 26. This Friday, coming back down to lows of 14. Nakuru town is clear at 15, highs of 25, lows of 15 today. 14 will be the low in a cloudy Nyeri. Highs of 25 today. Eldoret, mostly cloudy at 14, highs of 22 and lows of 14. In Kisumu, it's mostly cloudy at 19, highs of 27. We'll see lows of 19 today. And in Kakamega, mostly cloudy conditions at 16. Highs of 27 and lows of 16. Mombasa is clear at 23. Go to highs of 29, back down to lows of 23 today. All right, let's look into Malindi this morning. Mostly clear at 24. Highs of 29 and lows of 24. Out in Kampala, it's mostly clear at 17. Highs of 27. It'll come back down to lows of 17. Dar es Salaam is partly cloudy at 21, going to highs of 30. Lagos, clear conditions at 26. Highs of 31 and lows of 25. Joburg is partly cloudy and a bit chilly this morning at 7. Highs of 23, back down to lows of 7. We have a cloudy Kinshasa at 24. Highs of 30 and lows of 23. Let's look out east into Beijing, where it's sunny into early afternoon at 25. It'll go to highs of 27 and lows of 17. We're looking at a mostly cloudy Paris at 12. Highs of 23 and lows of 12. London is clear at 14. 22 will be the high and lows of 14. And it's still Thursday night in New York at 22. It'll come out to highs of 23 and lows of 20.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
23 minutes after 6 a.m.
And quite a number of folks are online this morning. Abdir Kadir Abdallah says here he is in Komarok and tuned in this morning. Donald NM says good morning as well. Good morning to you. Abdinur Munyasia says good morning, Spice Commanders. Okay. Why are these guys known as Waheshimiwa pretending to be against the fuel price increment while they passed that bill in Parliament? Okay. Washe Wilfred decided not to leave Kitangela just yet. Mm-hmm. And he's not risking losing a word of this conversation today. He's waiting keenly for, get this, the conversation on our own dyed in the wool fraudulent and dishonest manufacturers and traders, getting used to the mysteries of Kitangela. Dagi Aguta says, good morning, Situation Room, my good people. Ndu Eric and Dr. Muga tuned in already from Migosi, but he's feeling cold. Allah, in Kisumu, it's cold this morning.
We trained yesterday.
It did. Still cold till today. Okay. Abdullah Aziz Adam says, good morning from South Africa. Ed Gitonga wants you to know that it's the third day of no work and he's still in bed in Nyeri. Okay.
Okay.
Kelebogile Modise, we know you're tuning from Gauteng this morning. Good morning to you. Leman Kiptel tuned in as well. Ben Apudo, good morning. From MPs and senators, should not mock us by pretending to talk negatively about fuel prices. They authorize these taxes and still they have the ultimate power to lower them. So he's not a happy camper this morning. Mwalimu Dominic says, good morning, guys. Odero Jr. says, good morning from the... Okay, he's still insisting on the Great Wall of Kino. He's not letting this one go.
Sour.
He says he took a photo of the Great Wall to prove to you that it is living.
That the wall is still there.
Though it was brought down, it's part of the construction going on and it's coming up well. All right. Good morning from Mombasa. That's where Robert is. Kezi Bento, we see you from Zambia. From Arlington, Texas, Ben Ratemo. Oladero K, tuned in from Nyeri County. Esther again from Sydney. Amos Freeman tuned in. He's asking for a Luya proverb this morning and he's from Kimilili in Bungoma. Quite a number of people online today. We see you and we thank you for joining us. And CT will do your good one. Yes? Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. The Luya proverb will most certainly come next week.
Next week, huh?
Yes.
That's a promise.
And I will tell you the area which it will come from.
Start with Kimilili, where he is.
Yes.
Start from that area.
I know where Kimilili is.
Bas. Kenya's biggest conversation. Welcome, everybody. City, today's proverb.
This one is from Samburu.
Okay.
Not the Samburu at the coast.
The Samburu
like
of Samburu.
Ibia.
Samburu of Samburu.
Samburu of Samburu.
Okay.
Nyuat Mara Nkidimat. Very simple. Now to translate it into English, lovely long statement. Success is not accidental. You must put in a lot of effort.
Nyuat Mara Nkidimat.
Yes.
Success is not
accidental.
Accidental.
You must put in a lot of effort.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good one. The Samburu people. Very good one. So now we're talking about success. Let's look at the papers.
Let's do that.
The members of the Senate have to put in a lot of work to convince us that they are shocked, because they are really shocked. See, they are shocked about the rising fuel prices because of taxation. Now they are shocked that, my God, out of every 3 shillings that KRA collects, 2 bob goes to paying tax. A third of our revenue is going to pay tax. Mr. Speaker, did you hear that? So they asked the Controller of Budget to visit them yesterday, and she came in with a Commission for Revenue Allocation chairperson, and they were like, my friends, if you don't do something, things are thick. So dire is the debt crisis in the country that for every 3 shillings collected by KRA, 2 are gobbled up by debt. This is according to the Controller of Budget, Margaret Nyakango. This comes a day after the Central Bank of Kenya Governor Patrick Njoroge raised similar fears before the National Assembly, where he was talking about our debt is at a point where things are not good. Controller of Budget told the Senate Finance Committee that moneyed companies have also been targeted by the government so as to raise funds to service the huge foreign debts. Ordinary taxation measures cannot afford to run the country and service its spiraling debts. The country's gross public debt currently stands at 7.7 trillion shillings. It's 52% external and 47.9% domestic, almost neck and neck. One of the reasons why we were being told that we are going to do the Eurobond 1 and 2 and 3 was so that we can reduce the domestic borrowing. Okay, it's at 47.9%. It has drastically reduced from 48%.
Okay.
In the first months of the 2021-2022 financial year, the Treasury borrowed a whopping 67 billion shillings. That same month, the Treasury spent 162 billion shillings in debt repayments of the 253 billion generated as tax. The debt has increased from 49% of GDP in 2013 to 68% of GDP in 2020. The share of commercial debt has increased from 22% to 36% of the total debt. Commercial debts attract higher interest rates and shorter maturity compared to concessional multilateral debt. The committee, which is chaired by Kirinyaga Senator Charles Kibiru, said on August 16th the government borrowed 15 billion shillings in the Treasury bonds from the domestic market to repay foreign debt. Have you heard that? They went to our local banks that have made tremendous profit in the last half year.
Yes.
They borrowed 15 billion shillings and went to pay the others outside the country. Similarly, on the 30th of June, the Treasury raised 70 billion shillings from proceeds of sovereign bonds related to the State Departments of Infrastructure, Water, Sanitation and Irrigation, Housing, Urban Development and ICT and Innovation. The Treasury then made a request totaling 61 billion shillings, thus in the committee's view, contravening Article 201 of the Constitution and the Public Finance Management Act that limits borrowing to development expenditure. Nyakango says something needs to be done and borrowing needs to stop if this country anticipates for a better year in 2022. Whatever we do this year, we'll be able to determine our debt situation next year. Controller of Budget, Dr. Margaret Nyakango. She was there with the Commission for Revenue Allocation Chairperson Jane Kiringai. They have spoken. The Governor of the Central Bank of Kenya has said, our debt issue is a serious issue. They have spoken. Our senators are shocked.
If they are all shocked, then the view I would take is that
it's shocking.
They perhaps have taken on duties that are beyond them. Because if indeed they are shocked and these matters come before them, come before the floors, come before even their committees, and they are still shocked, then it means they are ignorant. Now, if you're ignorant of the very functions for which you are elected, then what reason do you have for staying on the job? Because clearly it's beyond you. Lighter duties are often recommended in such cases. Yes, something that doesn't strain you, something that doesn't give you too much of a headache.
The thing is, the people who can give the senators lighter duties are you and I.
And we will give them lighter duties.
Are we prepared to give these senators lighter duties? But as we remove them from office, are we prepared to examine the person that we put into office, whether they are up to this task?
You know, Let's go back to the genesis of this discussion.
Yeah.
The government and its role in trying to ensure that we repay our debts. There is no country on this planet that has ever developed by overtaxing its people.
Yeah.
None. It's never happened. This taxation stifles the very economic processes that are supposed to help spur growth. You borrow from local financial institutions. What you then do is you put a bottleneck on businesses and other entities within the country borrowing, because the government is a safe borrower. The banks will prefer.
They will not default.
If it defaults, the country has come to an end, and so is your business. So, it's a zero-sum game if that happens. But the individual, he might fall sick, his job may not be there, something may happen, COVID may happen, something else other than COVID may happen. The risk is greater. Now, I really don't have a problem with taxation as a principle. My problem has always been, what on earth do you do with this money that you collect from us?
Sure.
It's being said as though it's a folk tale. Oh, 2 billion is lost every day. That's 2 billion shillings of our money.
That just goes.
That is stolen, misplaced, mishandled. Use whatever term you want. I do not hear of any strong plan, policy to stem this tide. Do you? Maybe you've read of something, you've heard of something. Do you? So, now this is money that is purposed for development. The very thing that we're saying now, I don't know why they don't get it. If that money is actually used for what it was purposed, there'll be a lot more money for you to tax, for heaven's sake.
Exactly.
Yes.
For it to go round.
We're going to up our ante in getting these two ladies into the room. The Controller of Budget and also the Commission on Revenue Allocation Chairperson. These are constitutional office holders.
Yes, they are.
They are not clerks.
No, they are not clerks.
Controller of Budget controls any expenditure of public funds. Any. Now, does she have power to come and say, no, I see you have borrowed and you're going to use that money to pay?
You're not using it.
No, I am refusing. Does she have money to say, the power to say no?
I see you intend to borrow. Can we say no?
Yeah.
Before the money is actually borrowed, before you get to the point whereby you say, all right, let's get some more to pay this off. Before you get to that point of borrowing, when this thing is already on stilts, yeah? Can there be a no?
Because the job is to oversee implementation of the budgets of the national and county governments by authorizing withdrawals from public funds. The controller shall not approve any withdrawal from a public fund unless satisfied that the withdrawal is authorized by law. Now we are saying here the government spent money that is not authorized by law, the PFM Act and the Constitution. The Controller of Budget is here coming to tell senators, by the way, do something. Everybody is telling somebody else to do something. Somebody ought to be asked, so what do you do? Yeah. Do something. Senators will now tell the government, do something. The government will say now, 25 to 8, 7. Let's do something.
Okay.
Let's take a break.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Hello.
Halo, umesikia?
Nimesikia nini?
Hujasikia habari? Hebu acha nikuambie. Kile kimetokea.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Don't wait for hearsay. Dial *550*1# to read the Standard e-paper from the convenience of your mobile phone for only 20 shillings from your telecom line, and stay up to date for a reliable source with over 100 years of experience with no additional data charges.
In the quest of saving an ailing son, Sonia does the unthinkable. Will the guilt of her misdeeds haunt her, or will she come clean? Catch Mother's Guilt at 6 p.m. every Monday to Friday, only on KTN Home.
Okay, well, traffic coming out of Western seems to be a bit busy this morning. Seems it's been that way for some time. Looks like it's going to continue this morning. All right, getting into other parts of the city doesn't look too sticky right now. Coming off Mombasa Road looks pretty good. And this is after General Motors. Before that, we had that absolute mess that lasted most of the day yesterday, with trucks then deciding that they were not going to use the regular highway and stopping off all the alternatives. Hopefully it doesn't happen again today. The ICD route looks pretty good at this point. Can be used to then connect to the Southern Bypass or then out at General Motors on Mombasa Road. So, Uhuru Highway looks pretty good today, like we said. Jogo Road, getting into the city is piling up a little bit there around Landis, also going towards Kamkunji, the roundabout. That looks all right. Looking at the Thika Superhighway, past Survey, it's a breeze. And then you get to that junction right at the Muthui Square, connecting with the Pangani Underpass, and that slows down a little bit. So I think traffic is just picking up now. It hasn't gotten too crazy just yet. Perhaps could be the time to be out on the street. We'll see what it looks like in a short while. Help us out, guys. What do you see? Talk to us on SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
Spice FM, Malindi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
22 minutes to 7.
Okay, so apart from the shock and horror, eating chiefs is what the Standard is calling them today. The shame of the Rio scandal. We did hear that two the individuals that had cases brought against them then were found guilty yesterday, and then sentenced. Yes, okay. And fined. Just as there's no perfect crime, that of the eating chiefs at Rio Olympics, led by the all-powerful chef de mission Stephen Soy, and men sports CS Hassan Wario have been exposed. So, how they rode roughshod over the athletes. So, we're looking at the details of what exactly happened. Previously, maybe not given the exact details of this, but just a little bit of information, right? So, the crime. Images of a disheveled, distraught, and seemingly dehydrated Kenya Sprint's great John Anzra being ushered out of the Jomo Kenyatta Airport before the 2016 Rio Olympics had ended disturbed the conscience of a nation. His crime? The old man, one of Team Kenya's coaches at the time, had accessed the athletes' village in Rio de Janeiro to eat using athletes Ferguson Rotich's badge. Anzra, then 62, was put on the next flight to Nairobi, leaving behind the eating chiefs to finish a well-orchestrated plan to siphon off whatever they could be cleared from the government kitty of 544 million shillings for the game. The despicable treatment of the Kenya great was part of the chaos that saw a huge number of joyriders take up accreditation slots that would have catered for Anzra's meals and accommodation as one of Team Kenya's coaches. So it goes on to tell the story about how many athletes then were given less than their allocation, some not at all, to allow the chiefs to eat. It didn't go unpunished because then a certain number of people then were charged in court thereafter. I mean, obviously cutting a long story short, right? And it was then compiled that it was a matter of when, not if, the suspects were to be brought to book. So Wednesday, September 15th, the court held the prosecution that the prosecution had proven Wario had a role in the embezzlement of 55 million shillings allocated to the National Olympic Committee of Kenya. A report compiled by an investigation team led by Dean of Students at Strathmore University, Paulo Chieng, in 2016 reveals that at least 88.6 million was embezzled. The money had been earmarked for buying air tickets for team members, but was instead taken by unidentified ministry officials. Yesterday, Wario was sentenced to a 6-year jail term or a fine of 3.6 million shillings over his involvement in the 2016 Rio Olympic scandal. He paid that within 3 hours and walked home. His accused Soy was sentenced to a 10-year jail term or a fine of 103 million over misuse of public funds. Though they were given 14 days to appeal the decision, Dr. Wario duly paid the 3.6 million shillings and walked out of the anti-corruption court at the Milimani, Nairobi, a free man. As for Soy, his lawyer, Joel Bozek, maintained his client was not acting alone.
Oh. Yeah. He did not say that his client was not innocent. Was innocent.
He said he was not acting alone.
Oh.
So it's not just him. This sentence then
Yeah, he should have.
Share
He should have brought in others.
That is the lawyer.
Yes, his lawyer said that.
Page 7 of the Nation says how Wario got away with only 3.6 million shillings fine.
I like that perspective of this story.
So it basically just goes ahead to show this man was facing 4 counts. He was found guilty of 3. The 3 were irregularly allowing 3 Ministry of Sports officials to travel to Brazil in July 2016 during the Olympics. That was Adan Omar Ino, who was the director at the Sports Fund at the ministry, Richard Abura, who was Assistant Director of Public Communications, and Monica Saira, who was Deputy Assistant Director of Public Communications. The court found that their travel was improper and led to the loss of public funds. According to the DPP, the former CS conferred a benefit of 1.5 million to Mr. Eno, while Abura and Sairo got 918,000 shillings each. The court was informed about the benefits yesterday. We'll come back to that shortly. The other charge was that he engaged in a project without prior planning. That was the charge. The magistrate said, there was no evidence to support this particular charge. So, after he's been found guilty, yesterday is when the DPP comes and starts saying, but you know how much money was involved here? It was 1.5 million shillings for Mr. Eno and 918,000 shillings for the other 2 people, who were all officers of the Ministry of Sports. The magistrate was like, but now you're coming to tell us about this now. The principle of criminal justice lies with the charge sheet. The DPP deliberately excluded the 3 counts from any quantifiable gain or loss attributable to Mr. Wario. This is according to Wario's lawyer, Roger Sagana. Upon conviction, we cannot start to defend a new charge sheet with quantifiable losses or gains. So the magistrate basically is just everybody else who's been charged in this, there's an amount attached. But in the case of this particular former CS, he was appointed as ambassador, he didn't serve. There was no money included. From the conduct and evidence, he worked towards spending without guidance. Some people received more than they deserved. The evidence by the defense of saving 200 million shillings is to hoodwink, while truth is that the budget was exaggerated. This was what the magistrate said when she found this gentleman guilty. Now it brings us to the question of the DPP. Because during the course of this trial, the DPP amended the charge sheet 11 times. More than 4 amendments to the charge sheet. All 19 counts in the document had quantifiable figures, except those facing the former CS.
Do you see now why you start to ask questions?
So here we are seeing a big fish, former CS, taken to court over bungling of the Olympics. Faces 4 counts. His counts are basically you allowed ministry officials to go to Rio. And you started executing a project which had no planning. That is what the CS was charged with. The issue of the money and the mismanagement of the kits and the money itself went to the chef de mission, Soy. So the public is sitting down and wondering. A guy paid 3. In fact, when he heard that his fine is 3.6 million, he was like, yes! He was asked, what do you feel about that? He was like, brilliant. Within 3 hours, 3.6 million shillings. Chukweni ndio yenu, amara here. We just talked about the previous day where a former director of Kemri was found guilty of having removed money from Kemri's account into his own personal account and paid school fees for his children. 19 million shillings. The court has told him, fine, 19 million shillings. That is
just bring 19
your punishment.
Million. Yeah. Questions?
These are jokes.
Jokes.
Somewhere there.
Because
somebody somewhere is joking.
Because you just start to ask questions. Okay. Look at a charge sheet having been amended how many times? 19?
Okay, 4.
You said they were different. There were different
charges,
but
there were 4 amendments.
There were 4
the DPP
amendments.
made more than 4 amendments to the charge
sheet.
To the 19
counts.
Yeah.
All right. So the 4 amendments. So then you start to ask yourself, why were these amendments made? Number 2, on the day before sentencing, that's now when you want to come and give the details of the monies that were supposedly embezzled or misappropriated. Why on that particular day? Then you want to ask yourself, why is it that it seems that even when you want to talk about when you want to talk about justice then being extended, why is it that when it's the big fish, supposedly the big fish, that there's, it seems to be lackadaisical attitude towards this particular justice?
You get the impression that it's negotiated justice.
I'm telling you that it's okay. Okay, what could happen here? Is there something that you can do for me?
Perceptions.
Yeah. And you cannot fault people for perceiving that. You cannot fault
Actually,
that, because
you can't.
when you don't give the information as cut and clear and dry as it ought to be, you only create room for speculation, and you can't blame anybody who then speculates based on this huge vacuum that you've left.
One of the things that the DPP the office of the DPP has always complained about is that cases are brought to them and they are unable to take it forward because they cannot support the charge. There isn't evidence to support the charge.
Right.
Okay. I'm going to go with that particular thinking. If you look at this issue of Rio, when were those Olympics?
2016.
When was the case first taken to court?
2019, 3 years
Precisely.
later.
Now, are we saying that there aren't enough people who went to Rio who can actually provide testimony as to what they experienced, what they went through? Are we saying that there are people who are unwilling to come forth? Are we saying, and by the time this thing got to court, it's because there was evidence that monies that were purposed for certain things did not meet the intended purposes? There's evidence, and that's why there are these cases, and that's why there's even a judgment.
Yep.
Now, the other question that I ask is, are we saying that there are people who had more responsibility over this matter than others? In this case,
Yes.
the CS of a ministry, who has more power?
The chef de mission or the CS?
Yes, I was struggling with how to pronounce that thing. It's a good thing that you pronounce it. Or the CS. Now, there's a chain of all these officials. There are mentions here, there's the accountant, there's who. Are you telling me that this whole chain of people leading up to the CS, that the CS was not aware of what was happening?
Oh, come on.
It's not possible.
It really
It's
is.
absolutely not possible. So, if you're talking about bearing the burden of guilt on this particular matter, who should bear the greater burden of it?
Who should take responsibility?
Who? On whose shoulders do these things actually fall under?
There you go.
Can I just also introduce a new angle? So 2016 Rio Olympics bungled. As soon as the team, while the team is still in Brazil, the issue of the corruption and what's happening there breaks. And it's public information. All right? They stayed in office. Wario disbanded that team when they came back, okay, as a CS for sports. We're going to an election in 2017. We come out of an election. Uhuru Kenyatta is declared winner. He's sworn in as president. He forms his new cabinet. He drops Hassan Wario from the cabinet, but he nominates him for appointment as Kenya's ambassador to Austria and therefore Kenya's representative to the UN in Geneva.
Yeah.
All right. The man goes for vetting before the National Assembly. Everybody plus their cat and dog knows that there's an issue about Rio Olympics in 2016 and the CS was in charge. He goes through vetting. They are aware that there's an investigation going on. ESCC is conducting investigations. DPP has conducted, is waiting for a file, or the DCI has also been doing some investigations. Parliament says, this gentleman is fit to serve. In fact, Mr. President,
give this man a job.
Give this man a job. And a cigar to boot.
Man is sworn in as Austria's ambassador.
Kenya's ambassador to
Kenya's ambassador to Austria, right? In 2019, DPP takes the file to court. Obviously, man
recalled.
Is recalled. He's sacked as ambassador, and somebody else is appointed. Brought from America, Njaro Gidai, sent to Austria. Now, ask yourself, the president, the National Assembly, Chapter 6. Is this not just thing of going to that wall that's written Usikojoe Hapa?
And then
standing there
and peeing on the U.
With your friends. With your friends.
Yes, lining
Let's
up.
go. In fact, there's a sign that says
you
children.
count the letters. 1, 2, 3, 4.
You take this one, you take this one, you take this one. Let's do
like
the thing.
small boys and laughing at no.
Yes.
Chapter 6.
The thing that I found particularly interesting is that Mr. Soy himself is on record as having admitted that he carried the sum total of 25 million, the equivalent of 25 million Kenya shillings, with him to Rio.
Yeah.
Now, I understand that there can be circumstances that require the use of money. Must it be cash? In this day and age, 2016 is in this century. And it was just the other day here. Are there not other means of ensuring
Moving money.
Not just moving money, that you can expend the money without carrying a whole suitcase?
Some things, but you need cash here and there.
I have accepted that. I have accepted.
So you wanted him to send out by Western Union, then arrive there and go and withdraw from Western Union.
Put it in an account and use your card.
Yes, precisely. It's simple.
Apana,
In fact, it's so simple and straightforward.
You put it in your personal account. Now those are issues with DCI.
No, not your personal account. An account can be created for that specific purpose and a card issued for that specific purpose.
You're right.
And by the way, it's a government. How easy is it for the government to open an account?
There's an embassy in Brazil, by the way. Yeah? Remember, we're not just operating.
And then he gets a slap on the wrist, guys. This is what we're talking about.
He's been fined how much?
3.6 million.
No. Sorry.
So it was 103 million shillings.
Or 10 years in jail.
10 years in jail. And the lawyer has said, well, it's not just him, eh?
There were others, but where are the others not
where
here?
Where are the others? Before we talk about whether we'll pay or go to jail.
This kicking the can down the road
not here?
Isn't it? We are not worried about the others.
No?
Okay? No.
You're the one who's been caught.
You are the one. My friend, if you want to turn whistleblower, then by all means turn whistleblower. And start saying, okay, folks, thank you very much for this particular one. Yes. Let me just tell you the other people whom we're with.
Yes.
I gave so-and-so this, I gave so-and-so this, I gave so-and-so this. You did, yes. In fact, on this day and on this day and on this day, and we were standing under this particular lamppost. In fact, if you understand, there was a CCTV in this particular corner. So there's
We're getting two conflicting reports, however. The Nation tells us that the fine that Mr. Soy is being asked to pay is 115 million or face 17 years in jail. The Standard tells us that it's 10 years in jail or 103 million shillings. So,
why don't we chalk it down to a reporting error?
Yeah.
On both sides.
On both.
That's why we need CBC.
Yes.
This is why we need CBC. Counting is a problem.
It's a problem. 103, 117,
10,
even 15, 17 years, 15 years.
15.
Yes, it's not yet 20, so it's okay.
And then on the next page, the Standard still tells us it's 119 million. Okay, so.
Yes.
All right.
CBC is important. City, what are you looking at? Interesting story.
I have been looking at something that is perhaps, there's a newspaper I particularly like.
Yes.
It's called the Nairobian.
Okay.
And today is the day for the Nairobian.
Yes.
Yes.
The headline, money bags. Walevi are whisked out of pubs to police stations where freedom is bought for 5,000 shillings. How cops mint millions from COVID drunkards. This is the headline of the Nairobian. The gist of the story is actually very simple and straightforward. And this is what it says, okay? That between Friday and Sunday nights, at least 150 people have to be arrested. Meaning, we have curfew. We have times. Now, some people think that they're safe so long as you shut the doors. The police will come in. Yes, they will come in.
And they'll arrest you for what? For being awake?
Whatever they arrest you for, they're the ones who know, but you will be arrested.
Being awake past curfew hours.
Yes.
You shouldn't
being
be awake or being out.
You should not be outside your bedroom.
Yes, and even if you're even if you're standing outside the bar after 8 o'clock, you've broken curfew rules, and you say, but it's supposed to be 10. You said no.
But this is a bar.
It's
Bar
a bar.
should be closed at 7.
Yes, and what are you doing out here?
What are you doing at the pressings of the bar?
Intention to commit a crime. Intention to break curfew laws.
Danny.
Yes. Now, why have I looked at this story and found it interesting? Because I was talking to an individual who had actually been arrested. And he told me there's something that he has learnt. The whole point of the arrest is not to take you to the police station. It is to enable you to negotiate for your release. He said, this is not a story of whether you are innocent or not. No. This is a story of whether you want to go to the police station or not. Yes. He said, and the point at which you're arrested, he said, that is the point at which you start negotiating. If there is a police vehicle nearby, you do not want to enter that police vehicle. You must do everything possible to ensure you don't enter that police vehicle. Because he says, what it will cost you before you enter the police station is a certain amount. When you enter the police vehicle,
it goes up.
It goes up, and there are policemen inside the vehicle waiting for you.
If you enter the cell, it goes up.
Yes. Even before you enter the cell, it goes up. If you enter the cell, at every stage, it keeps going up. Said at the point of the arrest, you're just dealing with those officers. When you enter the vehicle, the number of officers has increased. So the amount of money that you're going to have to give. When you get to the police station, you're now dealing with the OCS.
So it's best for you to negotiate before you get into the vehicle. It's better for them if you don't.
You're going to part with the money either which way.
Yeah.
Okay? They will allow you to have your phone so that you can call others if you cannot come up with the money that is required for you to pay.
You know what's tickling me?
Yes.
The wanton way in which we're even discussing this.
Well, I am telling you what someone told me.
It's so normal. It's expected.
My brother was
Everybody
arrested during curfew last year.
Okay.
Same. From Embakasi, blah, 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 blah. Ended up in the cells. Okay? Got out at midday, following day. Because initially he was like, no, I'm not paying a bribe. I mean, I have committed no offense. Entered the vehicle, I've committed no offense. Entered the police station,
no offense.
Midday,
Cell.
No offense. Cell. Now he
No
had to
offense.
call me. I had to now talk to the boss. This guy was actually arrested at this time, right? Yeah. So what offense did he commit? OCS was like, okay, just let the guy go. But by the time he was in the cell, 5K is what is required. That is the going price.
For what?
See, for freedom.
For your freedom.
But he wasn't.
He wasn't what? Now you want us to start arguing that let's go to court. Sawa, you go and end up be a judge. At you arrested, okay.
Fine.
Sawa. It's okay.
What
we'll do is we'll just take you.
There's a story of the charge sheet here.
They can make up anything.
They'll just write you flouted the curfew.
That's it.
Now you go now to the magistrate and say,
otherwise.
not guilty. All right. So now we are going to have this case coming up for
Remand.
in 2 months. In the meantime, you'll remand.
Yes. And now, from 5, it's going to 15.
Thus, wasting the time of the court here by saying you're not guilty. And you know you are.
What are you doing before the court if you're not guilty?
Let's take a quick break. Let's hear what's in the news this morning. And then in the next hour, we have a conversation with the Competition Authority of Kenya. Director of Competition and Consumer Protection, Boniface Makongo, will be in the studio. All right? All those things about business, unscrupulous business people. We are talking about you as a consumer today. Protecting the consumer. Good morning. It's now 7 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
LSK President Nelson Harvey has met good his threats of filing a case against the competency-based curriculum. Harvey filed the case on behalf of his client Esther Awor Adero Angawa, who argues that the implementation of the CBC curriculum is against Section 41 of the Basic Education Act No. 14 of 2013. The CBC curriculum has been in the headlines recently, with many parents complaining that the curriculum is expensive, and even as the Education CS George Magoha has maintained that the curriculum is here to stay. Senate Energy Committee Chairman Ephraim Maina has defended his committee against allegations of inaction as Kenyans suffer from rising fuel prices. Maina said they have been pressuring the government not to burden Kenyans further.
The issue of these fuel prices has nothing to do, either with my committee, we have gone hoarse trying to tell them that Kenyans cannot afford any fuel price. And not just fuel prices, Mr. Speaker.
He also said that his committee has been asking Parliament to pass an energy control bill published in the Government Gazette during the tenure of President Mwai Kibaki.
Petroleum Levy Order 2020, which was published in the Kenya Gazette on 10th July 2020 and came into effect in the same month, July 2020. Mr. Speaker, the order sets out levies to be paid with respect to various petroleum fuels consumed in Kenya. These levies are required, Mr. Speaker, to be paid into a fund created under the Act and are to be used for the purpose set out in the Act, and in addition to serve as a stabilizing mechanism of local pump prices where the prices rise owing to various conditions.
Former sports CS Hassan Wario is a free man after paying a 3.6 million shillings fine imposed by the court following the 2016 Rio scandal. His lawyer Roger Sagana received the documents for his release even as he prepares to appeal the case. His co-accused Stephen Soli received a hefty fine of 105 million shillings or a sentence of 15 years. Here is the ruling.
Money was lost under his leadership. So the court will apply section 48, 1B, 1A, and 1B, the mandatory sentence for the loss. So in count number 5, 1A, the fourth accused is fined Kenya shillings 300,000 in default, 1 year imprisonment. The mandatory sentence under section 48, 1B, Kenya shillings 9,795,000 times 2.
The Kenyan Medical Supply Agency has cleared itself of blame following a shortage of medicines at various hospitals in Nairobi County. KEMSA has stated that it has not yet received any application for the distribution of medicines from the County Assembly or the Nairobi Metropolitan Services. Acting Director of Sales at KEMSA, George Walukana, said the last time he received applications to distribute drugs in Nairobi County hospitals was in March last year. The shortage of medicines is allegedly due to county government's decision not to pay 383 million shillings debt after the drugs were distributed by KEMSA. And ODM party has said it won't push for the removal of IEBC chairman Wafula Chebukati despite some of its members initially recommending for it. Some ODM leaders, including Chairman John Mbadi, had pressurized Chebukati to resign on grounds that they did not trust him after the 2017 general elections were full of disputes that led to the courts annulling the presidential results. Here is Secretary General Edwin Sifuna.
Mwongozo na ile mahakama ya juu wakati ambapo ilitupilia mbali uchaguzi wa mwaka 2017 ni vipi ambavyo wanafaa kuendesha masuala ya uchaguzi, basi hakutakuweko na haja yoyote ya yeye kuondolewa. Kwa hivyo kama chama hatujachukua msimamo wowote kuhusu mwenyekiti wa tume ya uchaguzi Mheshimiwa Chebukati. Sisi tunataka aendelee kufanya kazi kulingana na jinsi ambavyo sheria inasema kazi ile iendeshwe.
Thousands of health workers across France have been suspended without pay for failing to get vaccinated against COVID-19 ahead of a deadline this week. Health Minister Olivier Véran said France's National Public Health Agency estimated last week that roughly 12% of hospital staff and around 6% of doctors in private practices are yet to be vaccinated. Véran further said that some 3,000 suspensions were notified yesterday to employees at health centers and clinics who have not yet been vaccinated. He added that several medics had turned in their resignations rather than sign up for the jobs. This as we continue to ask you to take your COVID-19 jobs, continue observing the COVID-19 protocol so that together we can win this win against COVID-19. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
It's snaking along slowly on Mombasa Road this morning, inbound to the city. We're looking at that traffic around the SGR. It's actually not too bad this morning. Hopefully we can keep things at this sane level. We'll keep looking at it though. Remember your responsibility in not overlapping this morning. On Jogo Road, going towards the Makadara train station and then out towards the roundabout at the City Stadium. Traffic is also building up quite some, especially around that Makadara area, just past Hamza and then heading out towards Landys Road. Not so bad. Where it is mishmash is in the middle of the city. Langata Road also has piled up quite some, getting to the roundabout at Timor. Bagathi Way looking pretty good, so you can use that going towards Ngong Road. And we're seeing that Aerodrome section and the Bunyala Road roundabout not too bad. However, Huru Highway into Westlands and then inbound as well is packed. So where there was no traffic around Survey on the Thika Superhighway, there is now, and it's actually combined with that what you get off Kiambu Road and Muthaiga Square. Continues build up this morning. We're just now in officially traffic hour, and we'll check out in about half an hour and see what it looks like. Help us out again. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start
It is
your
7
day.
minutes after 7. A very good morning to you. It's the 17th day of September 2021. Kenya's biggest conversation continues. This guy who does the intros, right? You're a believer in people power. You're a truth seeker. Guy calls me a boxer. C.T. Muga is a fountain of wisdom. Eish.
Can you say
I
you're
think I
a
get that wrong. Me, I'm a boxer.
No,
don't like boxing?
No, that's not what he says.
Actually, he calls me a dog. News hound.
No, that bit is actually true. He does call you a dog.
Oh, I thought you were saying. I thought you were saying.
No. Well, you know, when someone describes themselves accurately, you have to agree with them. Eric has done a very good job of that.
It's like you were agreeing that he's a dog, or
No,
agreeing
I'm
that a
agreeing-
fellow called
I'm agreeing
him
with
a news
him.
hound.
I'm agreeing with him that he has agreed with that person. Who am I?
Your great wisdom, City, is being sought by Makadero Mike. Yesterday he sent us a message. Good morning, beautiful and handsomes. Kisumu Cha in the house. Please tell City I admire his wisdom. I would like to be his right-hand man. Makadero, the wisdom is on the left hand.
I thank the man, but you know, if the reference is to the Proverbs, I actually don't make them up.
No?
I research them. I ask people who come from certain communities. And it is them whom I should actually thank for giving me those proverbs. Yes. Now, I have the advantage of chronology, meaning I'm old. Now, that advantage means I know many people.
It makes you a mhenga.
Yes, I know many people. And because of the various careers I've had over time, I've interacted with very many people. So I have resources. Now, if he wants to be my right-hand man, I thank him for showing that interest. I profusely thank him. Yes. If you're hoping that I'm going to add anything beyond the thanks, I thank him.
Someone applies for a job. We thank you for your application. We really, really thank you for applying for this job.
Yes.
Thank you. The end.
No, usually it is, we'll be in touch.
You are not.
You are not extending
I'm not extending it.
Don't
It
call
is-
us, we'll call you.
No, it's thank you.
Okay. Today's proverb.
This is from the great community of the Samburu.
Right.
Okay? In Laikipia County.
In Samburu County, in Laikipia County.
Samburu County.
Okay.
You know there are Samburus in Laikipia also.
Yes.
Yes. This particular gentleman who gave me this proverb comes from...
Is a Laikipia Samburu.
Yes.
Okay.
That is the point.
Okay.
Nyuat Mara Nkidimat. Success is not accidental. You must put in a lot of effort. Transliteration.
Nyuat Mara Nkidimat.
Yes.
Okay. Samburu is one of the Ma languages. Okay, the others including the Maasai, right? And the other smaller. So if there's Mara here and there's success, that means Masai Mara means something to do with successful Maasais.
I think if you're looking at what is being
Your
mentioned...
1% is amazing.
Mara and Kidimat. So
No.
there's Mara word.
Logically,
Success, what?
It doesn't come accidentally.
Success does not come accidentally.
Yes, you have to put
You
in
but-
a lot of effort.
It's a good proverb, though.
You know something? the beauty of these proverbs is this. There are people who actually speak these languages and they listen in. We ask somebody who understands this language better than we do to chime in and tell us what each of those words actually means.
Yes. Nyuat marankidimat.
Yes.
Let's bring in the guests of this hour. This is a man who comes from the Competition Authority of Kenya. Now, when you hear authority, my friend, there's authority in the house. From the Competition Authority of Kenya, he is the Director in charge of Competition and Consumer Protection, Boniface Makongo. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you for having me.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation. What you're sitting on is the hot seat, and we welcome you to the hot seat.
I'm welcome.
Now, Competition Authority of Kenya, there are people who hear this and they think about very many things. You'll tell us your mandate. So it has nothing to do with like what's happening at Kasarani tomorrow. There will be competition, the Kip Keino Classic. People will be competing. It has nothing to do with that.
It has nothing to do with the Safari Rally.
It has nothing to do with the Safari Rally. Or even who's number one in class. Or next year's election, people will be competing.
Yes.
Nothing to do with that.
It has nothing to do with
What is the Competition Authority and what's your mandate?
Yes, Competition Authority of Kenya, as you've correctly pointed out, is a state corporation which is established by the Competition Act. And our mandate is two-pronged. So we look at protecting competition in the economy. And protecting economy, competition should not be confused with protecting competitors. So our focus is ensuring that there's a level playing field in the economy, because you appreciate the fact that Kenya is a free market economy. So there has to be somebody to superintend over how the players are behaving to ensure that the consumer is not taken advantage of. So that is the first aspect of our mandate. The second aspect of our mandate is consumer protection. So on consumer protection, basically, you're trying to protect the consumer from, for instance, being misled. You know, where undertakings or products are offered or services are offered to you, and you're told that this service is supposed to be, you know, a particular type or from a particular institution, or that this product is of a particular performance characteristic, which turns out not to be the case, or it's of a particular quality, or it's manufactured in a particular place or by a particular entity. So that is the first aspect to do with consumer protection. The other aspect is on unconscionable conduct, you know, where we're looking at the relative bargaining position, and given the fact that you are selling a product or a service, you know all the qualities of that product. I am a consumer, I don't know. So you could take advantage of me. So we look at that aspect. We also charged with things to do with when you're sold a product which is unsafe, a product which is defective, you know, and in most cases, some people don't know that when you're sold a defective product, for instance, you have a remedy. There's an institution that you can go to ensure that you either get a refund or a replacement with, you know, a functional product. And lastly, there are aspects of compliance with product information safety standards. And these are set out by, you know, there are standards for each and everything, including this microphone, you know, what it should have. So to ensure that the products that are being sold in the economy actually comply or meet those standards. And in attaining that mandate, we work very closely with a lot of other government agencies, including sector regulators like Communications Authority of Kenya, EPRA, which is the one which is the regulator for petroleum, CBK, IRA, KEBS, because I mentioned about the standards, among many others. And maybe lastly, what I forgot to mention is that the basis of the consumer protection mandate is Article 46 of the Constitution. Article 46 entitles and guarantees Kenyans the right to products that, you know, first of all, a product that is of reasonable quality or a service of a reasonable quality, and also information to take advantage of that product. So that you not only have the product that is of reasonable quality, but you're also informed in a manner that you can take, you know, full advantage of the product and what it offers or the service. The same article of the Constitution also gives you a right and protects your right to health, safety, and also the protection of your economic interests. And lastly, where we come in is the issue of compensation. The Constitution also entitles you to compensation where you use a product and you suffer some injury. That, in a nutshell, is what a consumer protection mandate is all about.
That mandate is broad, isn't it?
Far-reaching mandate, and it sounds very important, though.
Oh, it's absolutely important. As I'm listening, the thing that I was thinking, do you have the muscle to carry out these functions?
Yes, actually we have a lot of muscle in terms of.
Tell us about this muscle.
The muscle is in terms of we are empowered, first of all, to carry out investigations. So we work very closely with the other investigation agencies, including the DCI. But also internally, we can carry out an investigation and impose an administrative remedy. For instance, if, for instance, you have a turnover of, say, 100,000, the law entitles us to impose up to 10% of that. You see, that is quite substantial in terms of if you are an entity and somebody takes away 10% of your turnover, that is quite deterrent.
It's significant, but do you have the manpower to do it?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yes.
Staff complement.
We have a staff complement of 100, but currently we have around 80.
Boniface, for the whole country, 80.
Maybe what I can tell you is that in spite of us looking relatively fewer, if you look at also the staff complement of other regulatory agencies that I mentioned about, we are not doing very badly. But also if you look at the kind of complaints we've received and the turnaround times we've managed, for those, then our staff complement is kind of aligned.
So you're efficient.
So would that make it possible, because then you depend on complaints to come to you as opposed to going out and investigating on what could be, or do you do both? So if the most of the issues that you then have to deal with and then you're able to say is efficient, is because I come to you today and I say I have a problem with this particular product, CT comes tomorrow, says so then you go and then do the due diligence based on my complaint. Or are you actually going out and looking for where there could be gaps? Because then it could be extremely efficient if you are then taking on complaints that come to you as opposed to going to look for much more of them.
It's two-pronged. One, majority of our complaints are received from consumers. So you have sold, you have purchased something and it turns out to either be defective or something, or you are misled and you come to us. But equally, we've also had instances where, as an authority, we realize that there is widespread deception. For instance, you're being told that a product is of a particular type. I'll give you an example of some of the ones we've done where we've gone out of our way to just go in and carry out a test on a product, establish that whether it complies with a particular standard, and carry out enforcement
randomly.
Action. Yes.
Okay.
For instance, one of those that we did was with regard to juices. You're aware that Kenyans are very, would I call it diet or
health conscious
these days. So we all want to reduce our sugar, and that is something that even medically is being advised.
Yeah.
So we realize that
I would say they are more status conscious than health conscious.
Status conscious.
Yes.
Maybe both.
Because health is a conversation piece. Yes. Dieting is a conversation piece. But please go on.
Okay.
Yes.
So we realized that many of the juices which were being sold locally had, to entice consumers, you would find somewhere that no sugar added. So we went in to establish, is it true actually that there's no sugar added? And we realized quite a bit of them had quite a bit of sugar in them, which was not being disclosed in the labels. So we did carry out enforcement action to ensure that if you are selling a product, juice that has sugar, please inform people that it has sugar.
Just tell them.
If it's made from concentrate, don't tell people that this is made from natural juice. And that has happened. Just to give an example of
so
where
when they
we've
say
gone out
no
of-
sugar added,
Yes.
what do they mean? Do they mean no natural sugar added or no artificial sugar added?
Ideally,
Is it important to qualify?
Yes. Ideally, all fruits
Have sugar.
Have sugar.
an aspect of sugar. So many people who would want to purchase a fruit which is as natural as possible, even if it's processed, so that there's no additional either artificial sugar or any other type of sugar that is added in addition to what the plant had.
Okay.
So the intention of the manufacturer when he tells you that there is no sugar added is to give you the impression that there's nothing additional. It's just what was processed from the plant.
Yeah.
Which is turned out not to be the case. Yeah.
Okay. So what's the recourse? If you could walk us through, because you said something I think was extremely important earlier, is that many people do not know that if you exist to be able to help them when they may run into a problem. So what's the course of action? I have the unfortunate incident where something has gone wrong with a product that I have purchased. It may not be working, or I find that it is not according to what they've said. What then am I supposed to do?
Yes, thank you. We, as I mentioned earlier, the authority is empowered to carry out an investigation. So what happens is we have many ways in which you can reach us. Typically, you can use a phone call. You can also send us a complaint online to our emails, which is complaint at cak.go.ke. That is one way. We're also available on Twitter. We're also available on Facebook. So there are very many modes in which you can consult us. Basically, just to alert us that there is this, just in brief, that there is this product I purchased and these are the defects, or this is what I'm experiencing. Then from there, of course, the authority is compelled by the Constitution to get in touch with whoever it is that you're complaining against.
Right.
And I would want to be very clear that when you're filing a complaint, it's good also to have some kind of documentary information to support your complaint.
Have the sample.
Because not necessarily the sample, evidence.
Evidence.
Yes, a receipt of some kind.
Right.
And we are lucky that we are living in modern times, in the digital age. So even if you don't have, Kenyans don't have a habit of keeping papers, receipts.
But you pay with M-Pesa.
But we pay with M-Pesa.
Yeah.
You can use that.
You can keep those.
You can use that just to show that you are. So once we receive that, just to explain,
Yeah.
once we receive the complaint, then we have to get in touch with the party you're complaining against,
Right.
point out the provisions of the law, and carry out an investigation to establish if there is, we establish that actually that is true, that what you're saying is true, the product is defective. There are very many remedies we can proffer. One is, in most cases, you may want just a refund. Some people want a replacement of the product. But depending on the magnitude of the complaint and what is involved, in addition, the authority is allowed to impose a penalty, up to 10%, as I mentioned. Equally, some of those customer complaints also have a criminal aspect to them. So depending on the evidence and involved, we can also liaise with the DPP and DCI, have you prosecuted. And the penalty is 5 years in jail or 10 million shillings as a fine.
Tell me about your presence in the 47 counties.
Yes, as I mentioned, we only have 80 staff, so it has not been possible for us because also of resource constraints.
Okay, in the various regions.
To go to each of the counties. However, in spite of that, we realize that you cannot operate currently in Kenya without having some kind of association with the counties. So we have very close working relationship with the trade representatives, in the various counties, who then help in forwarding whatever complaints there are to us. Equally, you might be aware that we have consumer bodies in this country. You have COFEC, you have CATS, you have many other consumer downtown. And we also have consumer bodies that are sector related, like health consumers, insurance consumers. So we work very closely with those also. So they are able to, when they find complaints, because in some cases they are regional, some of those are regional, some of those have reached, where we don't have offices. And given the fact that we are operating in the information age, it's fairly easy to convey a complaint to the authority, and then we take action.
Your staff complement of 80, by the way, for me, it's not really a big issue.
Yes.
Because you can work with other agencies.
Yes.
And I think the relationship of working with other agencies and just what you've said, the other consumer bodies in the country would then make your work much easier so that you're concentrating on what is coming to you and then sharing information through various channels.
Yes.
Do you have a mandate? You must have a responsibility, but do you have a mandate to promote and to champion formation of various consumer organizations in the country?
Yes, that is actually an aspect of our mandate, where we promote, formation and recognition of consumer bodies. So we have very clear guidelines that on what you must meet. Because initially when we started, we realized there were a lot of basket,
Yes.
briefcase consumer bodies, where it's a consumer body, but it's maybe basket is a bit strong.
Oh no,
Briefcase, yes.
Basket. I mean the optics. I'm just thinking very appropriate.
Yes. So I think it's apt in terms of you just have an individual saying he's a consumer body. I think that's what I meant.
Yes.
Before I'm mistaken. Now we realize that you know. Typical consumer bodies are NGO types or civil society kind of institutions. To help them also get recognition and maybe funding, we need to have a framework which says you need to have a governance framework which looks like this. It has to be bigger than just the individual, and you have to have a constitution. You need to have a registration with the societies and all that. So that is something that we are currently working on. And in our many sensitization sessions across the country, we also encourage that to happen. And even in our engagement at county level, we also not only introduce the bodies that we already recognize to the counties, but also encourage that if at that level you can have, though we don't have yet a consumer body that is county specific, we would still encourage that.
What kind of outreach programs have you had to see the creation and development of these consumer organizations? Tell me, for example, in the last 10 years, through the efforts of the CAK, we have now this, and the other consumer representatives.
Yes, I will not give specific names as to ones we form, because that's not our role. Our role
you've encouraged the creation.
Is to encourage creation.
By telling me that you brought in consumers and told them, you know what, there is an opportunity for you and there is the law that supports you and you can then form an association.
Yes. We normally have engagements in counties. So typically in every year we'll do at least 14 counties. So we'll go to the particular counties, we'll go around publicizing our mandate. And the issue of creation of bodies and the bodies that are already existing, and even encouraging people that apart from this which exists, you could also form yours. And this is the way in which you can form your body. And these are the kind of bodies or development partners that would be interested in financing. Is information we normally divulge. Yes.
Yeah, but how do you do it? So in the 14 counties the recent counties that you visit, are you holding meetings at the county offices? Are you going and calling public barazas? How do you engage with the consumers so that the consumers are empowered and they see the need for forming and coalescing around an association?
At county level, we've engaged both the assemblies, the bureaucracy, and also the consumers themselves. So apart from just engaging of course, when you engage the bureaucracy, then they will tell you that in this particular county, most of our consumer complaints around this and this area. Then you'll get the stakeholders in that particular county who are affected by that particular issue. Then you'll get them together and of course, sensitize them about our mandate and then give them the options I've mentioned. Yeah, so it's at both levels, both the individuals, the individual consumers, but also the bureaucracy at county.
For example?
For example?
A meeting that you recently held and where you had consumers, and this is what the conversation that you had.
We haven't held any because of COVID, because you're not allowed to travel outside.
Okay.
So since COVID, but in the previous before COVID, we had been to Kericho, we had been to Bungoma, we had been to what else? Kakamega, at least the ones I participated in.
Yeah.
We've been to Mombasa, we've been to Kilifi.
In Kakamega, how did you engage with ordinary consumers?
The ordinary consumers, we had a meeting around, most of the key issues there were around water, that is the bottled water, and also sugar. But sugar was more of an agricultural issue in terms of the farmers and the challenges they were having getting paid, because that's also something that we broadly falls under our mandate. So we got the farmers' representatives in a hall, I believe in Mumias, in the sugar river, and we took up quite a bit of complaints, some of which we actioned. Yes.
I'm listening to this. COVID doesn't prevent one from actually communicating and holding meetings. Not in this technical age, but that's not really where I'm heading. What I want to ask is, how big and how powerful and how robust is your communication department? Because for people to be able to interact with you, they need to know who you are.
Yes, they know.
So tell us a little bit about the efforts you make to ensure that people know about you.
Okay.
But
yes.
do this after the break. Let's just take a break. It's 7:30. Time for us to take a break and take a look at traffic and weather. We're having a conversation with Boniface Makongo. He's from the Competition Authority of Kenya. Yeah, Competition Authority of Kenya, not communication. He's the director in charge of competition and consumer protection. We are talking about consumer protection in various aspects, and we get to learn that we actually have power as consumers, and we also have Tetezis, an organization that is established by law that has the power and the mandate to protect the consumers. Now, we want to know how we can take advantage of this and how we can be reaching out and communicating with the Competition Authority. Time for a break. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
We give you the latest, the funniest, and the most entertaining updates and news from Kenya and the world while you kick back and relax. Join in on our comical duo Hassan Umar and Sugar Boy on Habari za News every Friday at 10 p.m. only on KTN Home. Losing a loved one is never easy. The lingering memories, the what-ifs, but in all the gloom, we find ways of celebrating them. And here at the Standard Tributes, we aim to give your loved ones that befitting send-off. Visit www.standardmedia.co.ke/tributes today and post your loved one's tribute. In addition, get access to funeral services from our trusted vendors. The Standard Tributes, keeping memories alive.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi. We're looking at heavy fog in certain parts of the city. Highs of 26 and lows of 15 today. It's sunny in Nakuru at 15, and that'll be the low for today, going to highs of 25. 25 with a high in Nyeri, where it's cloudy at 14. Eldoret this morning is cloudy at 16, highs of 22 and lows of 14 today. In Kisumu, mostly cloudy conditions at 21. 27 will be the high, coming down to lows of 19. And in Kakamega, today, also cloudy conditions at 20, highs of 27 and lows of 16. All right, in Mombasa, it's 23 and raining now. Clear skies have disappeared. 29 high and lows of 23. Mostly sunny conditions still in Malindi at 23. Highs of 29 and lows of 23. Out in Kampala, it's partly sunny at 19. Highs of 27 and lows of 18. Dar es Salaam is partly sunny at 23. It'll come down to lows of 21 and highs of 30. Joburg is cloudy at 7, a bit chilly today. Highs of 23, back down to lows of 7. And we're looking at partly cloudy conditions leading to rain in Lagos at 25. Highs of 31, back down to lows of 25. And Kinshasa is cloudy at 23. We'll see highs of 30 and lows of 22.
Spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life.
All roads have led to the city centre this morning. Looking at all the roundabouts that connect with the city, Haile Selassie, and then at the roundabout at the Globe Cinema overpass, coming in from Westlands at University Way. Everybody getting into the city this morning. It's not too much of a headache at the moment, but it could get heavier as traffic hour continues. Gong Road is building up today, getting towards the community area. And we're also looking at Jogo Road coming into the city, building up, but nothing too terrible. Just past Mbotela and then going towards Hamza, out then towards Landis Road is where we see most of the traffic today. Okay, while you were away, Mombasa Road, actually no, the Thika Superhighway did the thing and we have traffic now snaking beyond Survey, and Kiambu Road is absolutely jam-packed and then heading towards the sandwich that is the corner between Muthaiga and the Pangani underpass. Absolute mess there this morning and moving extremely slowly. And further ahead, there's slow traffic coming in from Gigiri. All right, Limuru Road also heading into the city. Very, very slow this morning. And Mombasa Road, of course, continues. The bypasses are your friends. Shake hands, use them, get where you're going this morning. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
Kenya's biggest conversation continues. In the Situation Room is Eric Latif, Nduoko City Muga, and Boniface Makongo, Competition and Consumer Protection Director at the Competition Authority of Kenya. Before we went to the break, City asked you about the work that you do in communication, public communication, information, awareness creation. How much of that do you do, and what's your capacity?
Yes, our capacity, I would want first to start with what we do. We have quite a number of modes we have used to publicize our mandate. We are now almost 10 years old, slightly over. And apart from what I'd mentioned about the counties and sensitizing counties and all that, we also use the media, both electronic and print media, to publicize various aspects about our mandate. And you might be aware that it's very expensive just to carry out a publicity, on its own. It becomes very expensive. So we realize that a more effective way and prudent way of using public resources is where you have undertaken, say, an investigation and finalized and penalized somebody. Then you can publicize, you can have publicity around that. So when, for instance, we did an investigation in the juices, we did publicity around that. When we did investigation around the issue of labeling around bread, and other wheat products, we did publicity around that. So that to us is one of the modes in which we
showing results.
We publicize. When we had a while ago also something around somebody who was selling things that were gluten-free but turned out not to be gluten-free, which we had also done an investigation and finalized. We did publicity around that. So we find that to be a very effective mode. Apart from that, we also have statutory days, like you have Standards Days. So in our case, we have Competition Day, which is celebrated in December, and Consumer, a day for consumer. So those are also platforms in which we use. So we would have activities across the country, working very closely with the consumer bodies I mentioned, to ensure that we have road shows and people have access to us and are able to appreciate our mandate. And once we've done all that, we realize that subsequent, as a result of those kind of efforts, the number of complaints, for instance, we have been receiving have increased substantially. Initially, we started from around 60, 70, 5 years ago. Now we are
60 to 70
per year,
right,
in terms of complaints received and finalized, investigated and finalized. Last year, we did 320. So we are seeing an increase that is, which is very impressive.
You can tie back to awareness.
Yes, which we can tie back to awareness, and also given the fact that most of the complaints we receive are about issues we went out and created awareness about. So we're seeing that our efforts are very effective. And also a forum like this that you've given me today, I'm sure there are a number of Kenyans who didn't know about our existence, who are going to be aware from today, and I will invite them then to follow up if they have
someone
issues
like
that
Kenya,
they can handle.
for example. Kenya Mureli is saying, can we understand from the authority what the authority is doing in regards to the fuel increment as consumers?
Since you already told us very clearly, and I'm sure he has heard, that you have a relationship with EPRA.
Yes.
Yes, unfortunately, my answer to that would be that the issue of price setting for in the energy sector is set out in the statute, and that mandate is strictly EPRA's. It's not an aspect that we collaborate on.
How would you come in if, for instance, you heard of adulterated fuel?
Yes.
If you were told something about fuel that isn't what it is, gas that is, would you come in then?
There would come in, and we have actually received, just to mention how we work with EPRA, we have aspects of our mandate that complement each other. So to make sure that we also work in a manner that is collaborative and we do not duplicate resources, we have a collaborative framework with them. So we receive a lot of complaints around that issue of adulteration of fuel, and also issues to do with the other complaints in the energy sector. And in most cases, we have worked together to ensure that those are resolved. Yes.
The thing that has been at the back of my mind, and we I really want to ask you, is when you talk about consumption, okay? I consume this Mombasa road, meaning well, yes, I consume it. I use it every day. If there are set standards by which a road should be maintained or should exist, and those standards are not met, and I burst my shock absorber as a result of a terrible road because I've hit a pothole, do I come to you?
That would that looks a bit. That would not fall directly under our mandate, because if you look at how the law defines a consumer,
whose mandate would it fall under?
If you look at how the law defines a consumer, I think that would be something, and I'm aware that people have sued for that, where you either your windscreen gets broken or something, but that would fall under the particular agency that is in charge of that.
Yeah, but that particular agency are the ones who brought that problem. So, so you want me to go back to them and tell them, guys, you brought me this problem. Can you help resolve it? And in my mind, they created it. For instance, if I look at people who live in Syokimau and the problems they've had with just dust emanating from the side roads that have been created, and the inevitable disease-causing problems that will arise from this dust and everything around it, the absence of lighting on some of these roads, the absence of barriers and clear signs, which are in the proposals and in the documentation of what that should have been, and which have not been done. You see, standards set in the plan, in the policy, but in the implementation, it isn't there.
Somebody is doing a job and they're not doing the job to the extent they were supposed to do the job. Let's take it as private sector, but now it's government, it's public sector. You see, if it's private sector, you are very quick to act.
Yes.
You said that you're going to sell 500 grams, you're selling 490. You'll act.
Yes.
You said that you're going to erect proper signage on this road. You said that you're going to ensure there's no dust. There is dust. I am a consumer. You are my agent.
I would think that that would depend. The example is given, unfortunately, does not fall within our mandate.
Okay.
And as a creature of statute, you can only do the things that
the law has told you to do.
Okay. So if something does not fall within your mandate, you might be sympathetic, but that's as far as you can go. You may not be in a position to carry out any enforcement action.
Okay.
Yes.
If you look at the year before, you talked about 70 to 80 cases that you've been able to.
No, 304.
No. The year before this 300. I was coming to that.
A couple
so
of years
before
back.
a few years, 2 years ago, you're looking at 80 cases plus. Then you're able to quadruple that number this year, owing to the fact that many had seen perhaps what you've been able to do as concerned their cases, then maybe encouraging more people to come through. And we've seen as a force of habit is that people are likely not going to touch interventions if they cannot see the results that have been, for others. Are you able to guarantee that if I come and I say, I've bought this thing, it does not work, it's faulty or whatever, and I have all my documentation, are you able to guarantee that you would be able to sort out this issue on part of the consumer and they walk away happy? Because a lot of times why people don't want to get into the process is that they feel that, number one, it would be a waste of time, that they will not be in the vicinity of a solution, and that it's going to take them a very long time to get any kind of recourse.
Yes, actually, with regard to what you've just said, our experience has been very positive. And we are able to carry out investigations, as I mentioned, impose remedies. And the public confidence that results from that is what has led to an increase in the matters we're handling. Without even going into names, there are a lot of sectors in this country that also have regulators who are established by law. But you find that there's a lot of preference for filing complaints with the authority, which then shows that our mechanism is very effective. That's why people are coming to us. But I need to mention that when you are a complainant, it's also good to appreciate the fact that when you're dealing with the legal process, because that's what it is, the other party also has rights. So you will come in with your complaint, but also we have to get in touch with the other party and allow them to be heard, to say their side of the story, then make a decision that is impartial. So if your product is actually defective, of course we'll find it in your favor.
Sure.
But if it is not, we'll also equally inform you. If the other party also has a solid defense to why the product is, or if the product was spoiled or became defective subsequent to, or because of negligence on your part, that will also be told to you.
What if it flows into the areas of health? I consume something that then affects my health negatively, which for a lot of people is the case. Like you said, no sugar added kind of thing, and I go ahead and consume this and I'm not allowed to because of whatever pre-existing condition I may have. That exacerbates the situation. I get sick as a result of that, and I'm able to prove all of this to you. Up until this time, I have been consuming food in this manner. I went to procure this particular juice or whatever. They told me it had no sugar. I consumed it. I became sick. Are you able to deal in those matters?
Yes, we're able to deal with those matters. We look at, for instance, whatever it is, you need to bring proof. As I mentioned earlier, one of the cases we handled was around gluten, where somebody was saying that they took a product they believed was gluten-free. It affected them, medically. They fell ill, and that is one of the complaints that we handle. So those are cases we can.
So essentially, I'm hearing you say you deal with foodstuffs, you deal with consumer durables.
Yes. We deal with a wide variety of
even services.
Even services.
Now you see, I was hoping you'd say that.
Even services.
So if a church advertises that, why I have not finished what I want to say. Why are you people laughing and I haven't even completed my statement? If they say, come for your miracle this Sunday, okay? And I go to that church on that Sunday and I don't receive my miracle.
And you can prove
that this was my miracle, that I did not receive it, okay? Because the miracle I wanted was a car, and I walked to church. When I came back, I was still walking. So I didn't receive my miracle. Take what I'm saying seriously, if you don't mind. You said services.
Okay.
I'm referring to services. Yes. Can I bring that complaint to you? Because they have falsely given me the impression that they can do something that they actually can't do.
In a church service.
Yes. Because they've said, come for your miracle, and I've come for my miracle.
Unfortunately, that's the issue there. The challenge there would be proving that the challenge there would be evidence. It would be an evidential challenge for you to prove that.
For you to prove that you did not receive the miracle.
That is very easy to prove.
It's easy to prove, no?
Walemavu watatembea.
Yes.
You are still mlemavu.
Yes. My arthritis is paining even more because I walked.
Boniface, there's something you mentioned when you were describing your mandate.
Yes.
Unconscionable conduct.
Yes.
What's that?
Unconscionable conduct essentially leaves... Now, that is the aspect of our mandate that is very, service-facing.
Okay.
So that looks more at the issues of bargaining positions, relative bargaining positions. So how I can explain that is, for instance, you go to a bank, financial institution of any kind, whether it's a bank, microfinance, or whatever. You're seeking, say, a mortgage. And you would be aware that when you're doing a mortgage, there's a valuer to be involved. There are other services attendant to you getting the mortgage.
Yeah.
And say, in your case, you're able to get these services more cheaply elsewhere. You've done your own survey and all that, and you've gotten a valuer who's cheaper. You've gotten a lawyer who's cheaper and all that. And then the bank is compelling you, that you have to use this set of panel, you have to use this lawyer, you have to use this insurance company and all that. Yeah. That is something that would fall under our mandate, because that bank then is engaging in unconscionable conduct. Because for you as a consumer, you want to get whatever it is, the mortgage at the cheapest rate. So if you're being compelled to use services that are more expensive than what you can actually source in the market, that is unconscionable conduct on the part of the financial institution. Or where, for instance, they are giving you a product. You've agreed on a particular maybe financial service or whatever it is, but then subsequently you realize they are deducting fees which were not made aware to you. They are not in the contract, they're not anywhere, but they've just said, oh, you got a loan for 1 million shillings. When the money is credited to your account, you realize it's all of a sudden 990.
There's some deduction somewhere.
Those kind of things. So that's what that aspect of our mandate seeks to remedy.
So how do you know what as a consumer, how would I know what falls within the unconscionable conduct and what is actually still within the mandate or the powers of the service provider?
In most cases, many of these are, of course, that is the aspect that I was talking about, sensitization. Because many people feel helpless when you encounter those kind of scenarios. You don't know what to do.
You go to a bank and you're given this a panel of lawyers, panel of valuers, and choose one here. These are the ones we trust.
Yes, or it's even chosen for you. Yeah. So that is an aspect that for us, we publicize our mandate, say that this is something that we can look at if you came to us.
Okay.
Now, it's the duty of the consumer to also invoke their rights, by actually complaining to us.
Okay.
But in addition to that, also, a consumer needs to be diligent. You should be careful. When you're given a document to sign, please read it. Read everything in that document.
Would it fall under unconscionable conduct if they included it in the fine print? If they then you came and signed and said, they told you, we shall give you a panel of lawyers, we shall choose one, we shall give you a panel of valuers, we shall choose one. Sign here, you signed. Does that take away my right?
It doesn't take away your right, but it diminishes the right. Because the presumption then is that you read that document and you
agreed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
You signed it.
And you signed it.
You've said something about invoking rights, Boniface. Yes. And I think a critical issue here would be that there are a lot of people who are ignorant of those rights. That the majority of people actually are not aware of what their rights are when it comes to consumerism. They don't know that this is actually something that I ought to have. How do I invoke something of which I am not aware?
Yes, so that's why I say that is a challenge that we have as an authority.
Okay.
To go out there and sensitize Kenyans that when you encounter this and this, first of all, you are entitled to this set of rights as a consumer. Yeah. When you encounter this kind of challenges, there is an agency that has been established by the state to, defend your right, So that is essentially a challenge on our part. And as I had mentioned earlier, that is why we carry out, sensitization to make sure that people actually know that you're not supposed to be treated in this manner. You're not entitled to get a product that doesn't fit, what you thought you were buying, and just, you're helpless. You have nothing you can do. There is actually a remedy that can be pursued.
Do you also investigate or initiate investigations out of your own volition? I'm talking about, let's say I'm a consumer, I still haven't seen anything to complain about, but certain producers of services or product have come together, they've ganged up, they've formed a cartel, and they have basically decided how much they're going to sell this product for. And they've amongst themselves, they've agreed, so this is the minimum we're going to be selling this at.
Yes.
And yet it could be cheaper.
Yes.
But because if you leave this shop, you go to the next one, you're going to find it at the same price. They've basically ganged up and cartelled. Can you protect me from cartels?
Yes, we can. That is another aspect of our mandate, the part on competition. So what we are doing, and you realize that when you're a clique of traders and you are agreeing to sell a price, a product at a particular price, you basically are getting a benefit out of that.
Of course.
It's a very lucrative because you're controlling the supply.
Yep.
So what we do is that we appreciate the fact, as an authority, we appreciate the fact that cartels are very difficult to, investigate, because there is no interest on the part of the members of that cartel to disclose what they are doing, because they are all benefiting from the arrangement. So as an authority, what we've done is that we've come up with a set of guidelines and instruments to help us, entice people, maybe employees of those institutions or other people who are not beneficiaries, to come to us and then aid our investigations. So one of the things we have is an informant reward scheme, where we encourage people to come out as witnesses to the authority.
Whistleblowers.
We can pay you some money after that. Basically,
how much?
City's got a couple.
Up to $1 million, more or less.
Oh, good.
Yes. So you give us information and say that this
is what's happening.
Is what's happening in this sector among these traders. Then we can take it up. The other is a leniency program. So the difference between the informant reward scheme and the leniency program is that the informant reward is targeting the people who are not really members as such, but
people
who are aware.
People who are not enjoying the benefits.
Yes, or even an employee who has been dismissed, for instance, but is aware of the conduct, and they can come to us with the information. But the leniency now targets, if you have a cartel going on, you would have some people who are getting maybe 100 million, others who are getting 2 million. And that kind of thing. So there would be some people who, for some reason, want to opt out, or people who are aware that maybe there's a likelihood of being found out, so they want to opt out. So the leniency now targets the members of that cartel. And what happens is that you come to us, you give us the information that we need to investigate that cartel. But now in your case is that we will not penalize you. You'll go scot-free. But now the other members, will pay the penalty, for that conduct. So that is something we're able to do.
The other issue is monopoly.
Yes.
There's a monopoly in a certain sector, and one of the issues that has been very public is the issue of monopoly complaints against Safaricom by other players. I mean to say, we have one dominant player. There's a dominant player. It's not necessarily monopoly, but it's a dominant player, and they seem then to be enjoying certain advantages over us who are new entrants into the market.
Yes.
Do you deal with those? How do you deal with those?
Yes, that is another aspect of our mandate. It is we deal with issues where there's abuse of dominance. I think from the onset I need to mention the fact that being dominant is not a criminal or is not actionable per se. You know, the fact
not
that you're
illegal
dominant,
to be dominant.
It's not illegal to be dominant because people become dominant for many reasons. Maybe you have better products. Maybe your innovation is top notch. So you're able to generate products that consumers like, and as a result they buy your product more compared to the competitors, and you become dominant in that sector. So being dominant to us is not. The issue is what you do once you're dominant. So the law, the Act sets out clearly things that you should not do. So for instance, imposing unfair prices because you're a dominant player, or limiting access to the market, or limiting production. Those are now the things that would make predatory pricing. Where you price
stifling competition,
or where you price below certain levels, below the production cost, to kick out everybody else. Those are the kind of things that then would attract our attention. But specifically to do with that particular space, the telecommunications sector, we've done quite a bit of work there as an authority. First, initially there was, I think, like almost 7 years ago, there was foreclosure of the market of the agents. So if you're selling one particular product of a particular mobile phone provider, you're not allowed to sell any other. So that's the first thing that we did. We opened up that, so the agents now can sell across the board. You can sell to.
So that was your doing, eh?
That was our doing.
Well done.
Yes, so that you as a consumer then have access to all those products and you can choose the one you want. The second thing that we did was with regard to USSD. We did an inquiry. USSD basically is a communication channel that enables you to carry out financial transactions without using your SIM card. So you go and type maybe star something and then you can get access either to make a payment or something like that. So that channel is controlled by mobile phone operators. We realized when we did our inquiry that there were big disparities in terms of the charges. So the charges were, in some cases, some people were paying as much as 10 shillings per transaction. Others were paying 8 shillings. But because we realized that the cost of providing this service does not warrant that kind of payment, pursuant to our inquiry, that amount was reduced to 1 shillings currently. 1 shilling per transaction.
Cross-board.
Across board. For all the operators.
Well done.
Equally, lastly, in that particular area, is the issue of transparency. You could recall that there was a time when you did either you applying for a loan, these digital loans, or you're making a payment or buying a particular service on the mobile or phone companies. You go to be told about the price later.
Yes.
You've already paid and thing has
by
gone
the
through.
way, that cost you 25 shillings.
Yes.
Yes.
So that is also our initiative to ensure that after we carried out enforcement action, now you get told that this will cost you this much.
Right.
So you are able as a consumer to look
Make
at
a decision.
Various platforms
and you compare and
depending on many other dynamics, you decide where you want to, which product you want to purchase.
Right.
So those are some of the things we've done in that area.
Very well done.
Yes.
Boniface, thank you very much for joining us. Very interesting conversation. Come again. This time we'll open up the phone lines for people to complain, okay? And tell you things that they'd like you to do. Boniface Makongo is the Competition and Consumer Protection Director at the Competition Authority of Kenya. Very, very important organization in the country, protecting consumers across board. And they say, we are open, come to us. You can email them, you can find them on Twitter, Competition Authority on Twitter, or on other social media platforms. Asante, come again soon.
Thanks a lot.
Asante.
We'll be glad to come back.
Very good morning to you. It's now 8 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire with Dennis Aseto. The government will have to defend the competency-based curriculum in court after LSK President Nelson Harvey filed a lawsuit challenging its implementation. Harvey has filed the case on behalf of his client Esther Award Adero Angawa, who says the implementation of the CBC is contrary to Section 41 of the Primary Education Act No. 14 of 2013. Harvey urges the government to suspend the implementation of CBC immediately on the grounds that it affects the future lives of millions of children. Included in the case is the Education CS Professor George Magoha, Interior CS Dr. Fred Matiang'i, Teacher Service Commission KICD, NEC and the National Assembly. This SCS George Magoha has maintained that CBC is here to stay.
You go and look at the children from Mombasa to Kilifi to Siaya to Busia. The children are happy, and I'm usually attracted to the poor children. I don't go to the children of the vice president because I know the vice president can afford to do anything she wants. So I go to the slum in the Kibiras of this world, in Kiandutu. How are the children being handled in CBC? Are they happy? Now, if they are happy and we have a children's rights, ladies and gentlemen, are we right to say that we want to go to court when we already have 5 million children happy to engage? They enjoy what they are doing.
Machakos Town MP Victor Munyaka has criticized the government for what he described as an injustice to Kenyans in enforcing the curfew from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. Speaking in Machakos, Munyaka urged the government to lift the ban in order to boost the country's economy.
Because wakati unaletea watu curfew, that is a way of dictators going on ruling in the wrong way. Kwa sababu tumeona kama wafanyikazi wengi sana kama wale wa bar wanaruhusiwa kufanya kazi mchana, lakini usiku wanaambiwa wafunge. Why? That is killing their business. Because kama iko mtu atashikwa na COVID mchana, pia anaweza shikwa usiku. Curfew ilikuwa strategy ya kumismanage na kufanya dictatorship na kuumiza Wakenya.
In addition, Munyaka has accused opposition leaders of not pressuring the government to end the practice of increasing fuel prices on a regular basis, a situation that has caused concern to the people.
Ndio tunauliza Raila Odinga na wale NASA principals wajua wametesa wa Kenya sana, kwa sababu unajua these 5 years hakuna opposition ambayo inaweza angalia what government is doing. Kwa sababu sasa tunaweza kuona government inaleta kitu ambayo inaumiza mwananchi. The other day president alisema there is going to be a national disaster, it's a national disaster on drought and famine. Sasa wewe unasema kutakuwa national disaster kwa sababu ya njaa, na the following day serikali yako inaongeza mafuta.
He also urged the public to get out in large numbers to get the COVID-19 vaccine. Deputy President William Ruto stated that he is ready to sit with his boss President Uhuru Kenyatta and sort out their difference. His statement has left Kenyans talking, with the latest being Eric Simoto from Trans Nzoia County, who is now asking the Council of Bishops to focus on how to whip the government to serve Kenyans better instead of uniting politicians with different views.
Hakuna haja ya viongozi wa makanisa kuitisha upatanisho kati ya rais na naibu wake, kwa sababu tofauti kati ya rais na naibu wake ni utofauti ya mtazamo na malengo ya kisiasa, na utofauti kati ya viongozi wawili haifai ya kwamba ihusu Wakenya wote. Cha maana mimi ningetaka viongozi wa kanisa kuitisha mkutano na serikali watatue yale changamoto nimekumba Mkenya kwa muda mrefu: historical injustice, gharama ya madeni yenye tuliomba nchi za nje, corruption na tribalism.
Ruto's statement that he was ready to be reconciled with Kenyatta came just days after the Council of Bishops joined other leaders in stressing the need for the two to bury the differences between them before next year's general election. Now, the annual ASK fair is expected to resume after a 1-year suspension due to COVID-19. ASK Chairman Bertram Muthoka said plans are ongoing to make sure that the fair is a success. Areas that have been prioritized in the national exhibition plans are Nairobi, Mombasa, Nakuru and Machakos. Internationally, and UNICEF in Nigeria has stated that 1 million children in the country may miss out on education this year due to insecurity. UNICEF has said that cases of students being abducted by Boko Haram have become a serious problem that has continued to affect education. UNICEF Nigeria says the country has recorded 20 school attacks this year alone and 1,436 students have been abducted. The report also showed that 16 students have been killed and 200 remain missing. On to some sports, and Commonwealth Games 400 meters champion Isaac Mwakwala of Botswana is seeking to secure qualification for next year's World Championships at the Kipkeino Classic tomorrow. Mwakwala will challenge for the men's 200 meters title with a mouth-watering clash against Olympic 100 meters silver medalist Fred Curley of the US. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Okay. Traffic on Mombasa Road this morning, and it's building up inbound into the city. Looking at other parts of the city as well, we're seeing heavy traffic coming out of Westlands. That entire Kileleshwa area jam-packed. Gong Road, going west of the city, and then in that general direction. Aerodrome Road, and then connecting with the Uhuru Highway. So we're looking at Uhuru Highway jam-packed. You're getting to Haile Selassie, you're getting to the Bunyala roundabout, you're getting to the Haile Selassie roundabout, you're getting to the entrance into Kenyatta Avenue, and then beyond. Right, so quite a lot of traffic there this morning. Jogo Road as well at the junction of the City Stadium roundabout, and then also on Langata Road today, getting into the city, absolutely packed. Thika Super Highway still doing the thing today, in and outbound traffic as well. Coming off of Kiambu Road, not too pretty right now. And we'll keep an eye on things. Okay, so just another update coming in from Kisumu, generally west into the country. There's traffic this morning stretching from the Jomo Kenyatta Highway towards the Kibuyo Market. But outbound is clear. Not too much of an issue there this morning. So there's a lot of traffic on Jomo Kenyatta Highway in Kisumu this morning, and Nyeri Road as well. Busy, but moving. We'll look at other parts of the country. Help us out here with what you see. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127. Quick one, Mombasa Road. Fog still heavy on some parts. So fog lights up to get you through.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
After 8. Good morning. It's the 17th day of September 2021. Kenya's biggest conversation gets into the third hour. We are broadcasting on SpiceFM around the country: Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Nyeri, Malindi. We are on KTN Home for the next 1 hour, and we are also live streaming the show, as we always do, on SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and www.spicefm.co.ke to the world, like Desmond Blair says, watching from Grenada. And others as well across the globe. A very good morning to you. We have a man in the studio. He's white-bearded. He's just come from the mountain having a conversation with the Most High. He has the day's proverb. C.T. Muga, a.k.a. Moses.
Right. Our proverb comes from the community of the Samburu Nation. Nyuat Mara Nkidimat. Translated into English, success is not accidental. You must put in a lot of effort.
Success is not accidental.
No.
You must put in a lot of effort. Must work hard at it.
It's actually putting a lot of effort goes beyond just working hard, because most people, when asked, will tell you that they work hard every day. But now for success to be what it is, then a little more than the normal hard work has to be put into it. Yes.
Let's talk about working hard and very hard and getting the benefits of it. Introducing the guests for this hour is the very Reverend Canon Sami Wainaina, Provost of the All Saints Cathedral of the Anglican Church of Kenya. Provost, karibu sana to the Situation Room once again.
Asante sana.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you guys.
You're looking well.
I am well indeed. Thank God.
Indeed. You talk about working hard. The people in your neck of the wood, when they're looking as good as you are, and you tell them, hey, you're looking well, it's just no kugeria money. Very modest. Being very modest about it. No kugeria money. Tunajaribu tu hapa na pale.
Ni effort kidogo tu.
Just,
And then others will tell you, we thank God.
Yeah. We thank God. We thank God. In everything we give thanks.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Carol, the last time you were here, we talked about what we're going to be talking about today, which is politics in church. We're going to angle it a bit differently today about church and politics. And we had a conversation on Monday with the Archbishop of the Anglican Church of Kenya, who's also the bishop of your diocese.
He was in the Situation Room.
Yes.
All right.
On the phone.
Okay.
It's a bit different.
We need to bring him here.
Yes. Next time he'll be here. He had just come out of from Butere, where he did what he did and he said what he said. And we asked him, so, Mr. Archbishop, Your Grace, why were you saying what you said? He said, in fact, let me give you leakage. In my next Sunday sermon, I am going to issue orders to the clergy in the Anglican Church. And you will be told, the very Reverend Canon Samuel Inaina, do not join those who go to politicians with delegations talking about what the country needs. I've given you leakage. That's what's going to be happening. So we have seen this conversation taking place, church and politics, politicians being given the an opportunity to speak in church at the pulpit, and then that whole conversation turning political. And the debate has been, why should we bar our political leaders from speaking? I know at the All Saints Cathedral, you're one of those that says that very same thing. But why?
He doesn't just say it.
He practices it.
Yes.
Strictly.
You will come in as a congregant and leave as a congregant with all your leadership and all your politics. Now, that is me saying it, of course. That's not that's not what the Right Reverend says.
Guys, we got it all wrong when we started identifying people in churches. Maybe it started out of goodwill, but that has been abused. And I think what the Archbishop did in Butere was to draw a line, which was, to me, very, very good. You see, on a Sunday, I only have worshippers. People don't come there as doctors or professors. They just come as worshippers. The moment I start defining them according to their professions, then I should not just give the politicians an opportunity to bring greetings. I should bring doctors as well, because there are also organizations of doctors or politicians, all manner of organizations. They should be given an opportunity to bring greetings and announce to their members
their plans.
In the past, I've said it here, but I've also said it at All Saints Cathedral, we overrate our political leaders. And I think moving forward, and that's what the Archbishop was saying, is no. They are just leaders. They are workers. They are employed by Kenyans. They have no special right to dictate things. And you see them, because you can imagine how much it would cost to do a political rally. It's expensive. But there is a captive audience in a funeral. You see them fighting over that.
Yep.
How shameful can our leaders be that you're supposed to go console with those who have died and you hijack the program? So we overrate them, we give, and I think the Archbishop said, no, please come as worshippers, and that should be the new normal in the Anglican Church. Whether other churches want to pick that or not, that is their own decision. But in terms of we, the foot soldiers of the Archbishop, we will implement what he advised. And he didn't just advise, he practiced his advice. So on Sunday, I don't have politicians in church. And I've been in the cathedral now 11 years, and I have practiced that. And this fallacy that politicians come to bring money, church is not sustained by politicians. The other question I would like to bring in our discussion today is, when a politician keep hopping from one church to another, when do they get spiritual nourishment? Sit down, be fed, bring your soul to the Lord. Most of our politicians spiritually are bankrupt because their work is hopping from one place to another. So we have two problems. Politicians come to church ready to speak, and you have a clergy who sees them and recognizes them. That's where the problem is. So politicians should come to church not expecting. But I know they wouldn't come. And it's fine if they don't want to come. They can stay. But let's make worshipping spaces just that.
The expectation of many a politician, however, Canon, is that they will come to places of worship and be given that opportunity because that has historically been the practice. It doesn't matter. In the Anglican Church, in other churches, it has been. Whether we're looking outside of Nairobi, outside of the cathedral, in parishes, in rural Kenya, in parishes in other parts of the country, that has been the practice. So from now,
that is recent.
Sure. So, but now we're saying we are stopping this going forward.
Exactly.
Politicians with their expectation, would it then be the business of the church to now deal with what that expectation is? Or are we saying regardless of how you feel, regardless of what has happened in the past, we are not having it anymore?
And it's not that the church is intolerant to politicians. What we are only telling them is, I think you've abused some goodwill. They are our leaders. We love them. We respect them. By the way, if they behaved in a certain way, I don't think the church would be too strict. But Kenya, being a corrupt nation, because we are realizing if we don't draw a line, look at Moi's time. Moi would go to church, but he never did politics in the church. He never. That Mzee, with all the challenges he had and his government, respected the place of worship. Look at Mzee Kibaki. What a man we had there. Would go to church, not even say a word. Now, it is during this time, the Uhuru Ruto governance, that has brought a lot of... And you know, separation of religion and government is actually important. They have a role, we have a role, we correlate, we contribute. Yes, but there should be a line that you can't cross here. Because I have never been invited to a political rally to do a speech. And when I'm invited, it's only a prayer and it should be written and short.
You're never invited to set the moral standard, for example.
No.
About
Pray for food.
Yeah.
So you cross into my forte and you want now to dictate. And you know what happened in Murang'a, where politicians fought at the altar.
Yep.
And
In Kenya as well.
that's what we are saying. And we are not saying that the church has been the holy of...
Squeaky clean.
No. Let's accept where we've gone wrong, and that's what the Archbishop said. We've done it wrong, but moving forward, we can't. And again, now moving to 2022, it's dangerous. People will fight in church.
But Reverend, we can point fingers at politicians, rightfully so, but there's something Eric brings into our discussions every so often. And on this one, I am compelled to agree with him. Our congregants love politicians, and they also love to listen to politicians. So here you are as a church. When a politician stands up, sometimes they're even happier and more animated than when the preacher stands up to speak.
And the media gets excited.
The media propagates it as though there's no tomorrow. Yes, we do.
I agree totally with Eric's submission and yours.
I've peppered it a bit, but yes.
It is true. And I know of one Anglican bishop who was roughed up in a funeral by saying no to politicians. And the congregation booed the bishop because they want to hear the politician.
Yep.
In the cathedral, I've gone through such pressure. But I think because they know I have a strong stand, no one would dare. No one would dare. And I remember the day NASA presented their papers, they came to church, to All Saints that day. I don't know whether they were expecting to speak, and the media were there, and I stood and I told them, media, you have one choice, to sit down. This is a worshiping space. This movement that I'm seeing here, you'll be out in the next 1 minute. Can you be seated now? And you know what? They sat. I told them these politicians have come to worship. Nobody spoke. And at the end, when I was giving the benediction, I asked them to stand wherever they were. And I told them, God looks for David and we don't know who David is in this context. If he's amongst you, the NASA group, amen. God only looks at the heart, not at the physical. We will look mostly at the physical. But if David is not here, God will find him wherever he is. And I prayed and gave benediction, and we went out. And I thought I would be in very bad books with the politicians. But all of them were like, Provost, how do you control your church in a way that it is safe for everyone and everybody feels? But let me tell you, a few months after, I was out of the country, and my deputy was in a lot of problems because the same even members of the cathedral were passing notes to him. It's like kind of saying the boss is not here.
Yeah, who are you?
Hello. And there was a politician, and he said, no, cathedral has a standard. In other words, it's true that the congregants can demand, but clergy can create cultures. And I have seen it. I've never been under any duress because I have made it clear. And it's not because I hate, it's because I want to treat everybody well. So clergy actually will be under a lot of pressure moving forward because politicians will not just hear the Archbishop and the Catholic Conference of Bishops. They will not just hear. Look at Sunday. They will start pushing.
They will still be there.
They will push. And if I was the clergy, I would not refer to them. I would do the service, give the benediction, finish.
There's pressure, like you said, from the congregants. How do you deal with the congregants? Even as you say, as instilling the culture in church, but you need to make us understand,
Eric,
what you're thinking of.
When I became provost, I remember I did a sermon, and I told them early. So what I said in January, it looked like it was new. Me, I did it when I became provost, and I told them, you know what? During my tenure as provost, the following will not happen to this congregation. There will be no politicians here. This podium will be a place of worship, purely. And people clapped. And I told them, so that you don't waste your claps, did you understand what I meant? I meant your brothers and sisters, when they come here, they will not talk. They clapped again. I said, let me repeat the third time. And I repeated again, they clapped. Then I said, okay.
Okay, now we
You seem to be understanding. I'm telling you, no. And I'm doing this to secure this space. It is for public. It's for everyone. Let's all be treated the same way. Why am I saying this? I've realized leaders have, especially religious leaders, have an opportunity, and I think that this discussion today, what is their role in matters of governance and politics?
Sure. And
it is possible.
And there's a question right there, Canon, that why is it, and why is it that we are saying, all right, politicians, there's a space here that we will keep for worship. But at the same time, we expect leadership and guidance on how to operate in a political scene as citizens of the country, being given the moral compass by leaders in the church. How do we draw the line between the two? Why is it that church leaders can give direction on how to run in the country? However, we're saying politicians don't have an opportunity to come and speak to a congregation.
As I said earlier, there's a line that is drawn between politics, or what you'd call political governance, and religion. Let them be separate. However, they are interrelated. If you look at the history of Kenya, for example, The church has played an important role in matters of education and health, or even governance. The church has, or even, let's talk of religious community, has. But there is context that shapes the message. If it was in an ODM rally, they will sell their product.
Yep.
If it is UDA, they will sell their product. And they shouldn't attack one another. If you sell Coca-Cola, just sell Coca-Cola and it's fine. It doesn't mean Pepsi is not good. You tell us why. In the church, there we have a different product. And we are guided by the gospel. And we don't just react. We look at Scripture, we interpret Scripture, we apply Scripture to address the context. And if the context is political, Scripture doesn't stop only at taking people to heaven. The gospel is a tool of liberation. And it has been used historically to set people free. So we clergy have a mandate. And we must say this space here is for this particular one. Again, politicians, if they are believers, they need nourishment. So don't come dictating the kind of nourishment. We know what you need because we are led of God. We take time to think and theologize and reflect on what is happening.
So as you draw that line, you will hear then the pushback from the politicians is, all right, so clergy deal with matters of spiritual nourishment. Leave the politics to the politicians.
What is the definition of spiritual nourishment? As I said, we are not just in the business of taking people to heaven. Eventually we will. But we are here, down here on earth for a reason. Therefore, matters that affect me. You see, I didn't come from heaven this morning, Eric, and landed here. Then in the evening, I'll go back. I live in this country.
You're a Kenyan, you're a taxpayer, you're a consumer.
When fuel is increased, I'll go to the same petrol station. All Saints doesn't have a petrol station. I'll go to the same supermarket. In other words, we are affected by decisions that are made by our government.
Okay.
Politics is so important that it can't be left to politicians alone.
All right. But then can you draw a line between governance issues where you talk generally about, okay, the price of fuel, the taxation regime in the country and all, and leave the actual politicking to the politicians? I'm bringing this in the context of now we are hearing clergy are offering to mediate between the political battle between the president and his deputy. None of them has initiated it. It's clergy that's initiating. That has nothing to do with governance of all fuel prices.
No. Let's define politics. The politics you are talking about is inter-party politics. We will not be involved in inter-party politics where we will tell you the kind of president that the kind of party. We'll not talk about party politics. But there are governance issues that are important for church leaders or religious leaders to get involved. So in the church, we will not tell you ODM, UDA, or are they called Jubilee? No, we will not go into such. The presidency belongs to all of us. Whether it's a Jubilee or ODM presidency, it affects. That office they carry there is not personal. It actually belongs to the electorate. And we as a church, we are there as individuals, but also institution. So where we are able to mitigate peace, that is the role of the church. Can I give you 4 A's?
Give us the 4 A's after the break, if you don't mind. The very Reverend Canon Sami Wainaina, Provost of the All Saints Cathedral, is in the Situation Room this morning. Where do we separate church, state, politics? And where do we draw the line? Where do they two mix? That's a conversation we're having in the Situation Room this morning on SpiceFM, KTN Home and online. 8:30. We'll be back after this break.
This is the Situation Room. the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
No, this wheelbarrow, how can you give people wheelbarrow? His party symbol is an umbrella. Is he distributing umbrellas in McQueen?
My goodness gracious me. Hey?
You try and call them the same person who was in your house every day because they know you are influential and you will give them votes. Call them after 1 month and see if they'll pick up their phone.
Don't tell your member of parliament that you want him to come and build a school, you want him to come and do a hospital. That is not the work of the member. Now that we have devolution in this country, these resources should go to those devolved units.
You have to have strong, independent institutions. And you have to have police who has the right to take the biggest town in the country and question, why did you do this and that, and send them to court if necessary.
Social media was on fire.
Yes.
Every 5 or so minutes, some motorbike guy would come in, put his 20 bob play, take off again. So I decided, let me put my 20 bob also and see. And I put 20 bob. It came. This is a dusty little village, and I'm thinking, there's slot machines in this place.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It's 17 degrees and mostly cloudy conditions in Nairobi. We'll see lows of 15 today and highs of 26. Nakuru town is sunny at 16, highs of 25 and lows of 15. 15 will also be the low in Nyeri, where it's cloudy at 17 and will go to highs of 25. In Kisumu, it's mostly cloudy, highs of 27 and lows of 19 today. 16 will be the low in Kakamega, where it's mostly cloudy at 23, going to highs of 27. Eldoret, mostly cloudy conditions at 18, highs of 22 and lows of 14. Mombasa, still raining at 24. It'll come down to lows of 23. And highs of 29. It's also raining now in Malindi at 26, highs of 29 and lows of 25. Looking out of Kenya into Kampala, it's partly sunny at 21, highs of 27 and lows of 18. Dar es Salaam, partly sunny at 24, highs of 30. And we'll see lows of 21. Joburg, mostly cloudy at 9, highs of 23. And in Lagos, it's raining at 24, highs of 31 and lows of 25. Kinshasa skies are cloudy at 23. It'll go to highs of 30, back down to lows of 23 today.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Everything nice.
Spice up your life.
All right, Langata Road into the city, Gong Road into the city, coming out of Westlands and into the city as well. Jam-packed in most areas now. We are in traffic hour, this to be expected. Traffic now seems to be going the other direction on the Thika Superhighway, meaning that it is snaking further along, and we're seeing traffic now as far back as Safari Park Hotel. Kiambu Road has fed off what it was doing, and not so bad right now. At least you can see parts of the road, whereas before you could only see what? Cars. Jogo Road coming off Makadara, then towards Kaloleni onto Landis Road. You're going to see that little pocket of traffic between Landis Road, the roundabout there at Kamkunji. Very slow this morning. The Mombasa Road continues to be a thing. The ICD route is not looking too bad today. We're not seeing any vehicles turning. Hopefully we can keep it that way. The Southern Bypass giving you some good vibes as you head into the city. The long route, but the moving route for sure. Enterprise Road is the way to get into Mombasa Road coming from the city. So you go the back way to get in without too much of a headache. Use it. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. That's how you can get in touch with us this morning. Text on 40127. Let's keep things moving.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
25 minutes to 9. Kenya's biggest conversation in the Situation Room. The usual three, Eric, Ndu, and CT. Our guest is Provost Sami Wainaina of the All Saints Cathedral. You are giving us the 4 A's.
I want to address myself to what is the role of the church? Mm-hmm. Because we can't do everything. Number one is agenda setting. Recently, the Archbishop of the Anglican Church asked the question, said, do not just talk about economic models. Answer the question, why are Kenyans poor?
Mm-hmm.
Who made them poor? And I'm using that as an example on how the church can set the agenda. It's very easy for every political party to come up with models on how they will address the poverty in this country. And I've had many, bottom up and bottom something else. But all of them are actually saying the same
it's about the
thing.
economy.
They are talking about poverty. But ask yourself, why do we have a few Kenyans that are so wealthy, yet the majority are poor? The church should set the agenda. Let's talk about it. Let's address the problem. The second one is accountability. Who, for example, stole the COVID money? Do you know, since the directive was given that I think in a month's time, I should have received a report.
Yep.
That was last year.
Yeah.
Up to today, we don't know who stole the money.
A month
Now,
is not-
when
a month is not over.
Oh.
No.
Oh, it's not.
No, it's not.
Okay, depends on the length of some
Depends on your
months.
definition of the length of a month.
So the church is not just there to preach and make people feel good. The church, actually not even the church, let me say the gospel makes us uncomfortable because it will ask us difficult questions. So when we apply it to our context, you ask difficult questions and people will not like you for that. So who stole the money? We need to account for every action until impunity is annihilated in this country. And the church should not stop to talk about that. Who is giving, for example, superior weapons to bandits in Laikipia? Where do they get them from? It tells you there are people within our political class that are corrupt and they are interested. And it's not just happening, it's happening closer to our election. And so matters of accountability are very important. Number 3 is awareness. And this is about education, educating and empowering people. Civic education is important, and that should happen at the pulpit. And it's not just a subject that should come closer to the election. It is something that constantly we need to speak. In fact, I find it offensive that there are clergy who will go throughout the year speaking other things, but not empowering their people. Awareness is important. I've had people saying we are not going to do elections because all these people are thieves and all that. Okay, a pastor should pick that as a subject, be able to address that, but tell people you can make changes. It all depends on you. It's like this whole issue of the petroleum now and the prices. You know, politicians will talk as if they never got involved. But it was Parliament that did it. And so who are our enemies, Kenyans? It's actually our own leaders. And if we feel they are not serving us, with your vote, you can take them home and only go for those you feel. It's actually your choice. Go for corrupt ones, you will feel it. The last one, the last 4 is agreement promotion through dialogue, mediation, diplomacy, peace building. And we see that even in the Beatitudes, Jesus talking about the role of believers. Like what you're asking me, Eric, about why should we be involved about the peace between the president and his deputy. It is us to be involved in mediation, in dialogue. That is the work of religious community, and particularly the church.
You know, it isn't the first time the Anglican Church is doing this. The second African Archbishop of the Anglican Church of Kenya, Manasseh Kuria, did something similar. And if you look at the role that some of those older prelates did, they were very hands-on in what you would call the social issues of their country. Very, very directly involved. Now, that's the good part of what I'm saying. The second part of what I'm going to say is not so pleasant, because up until that statement was made by the Conference of Bishops in the Catholic Church, and what the Archbishop of the Anglican Church did at Butere, prior to that, what we call as the Christian religious leaders had let us as Kenyans down completely. Why do I say this? I look at the Muslims. I look at the Hindus. It doesn't even occur to you to consider that a politician would go into any of those establishments to treat. It doesn't arise. And they also know it doesn't arise. It's not possible. Now, when we secularize our faith, and you are in the church and you feel as though every time you're in a church, you get the feeling that you're in a political rally. You actually forget, where am I? Where am I exactly on this particular day? It is the role of the church. If there's a turnaround, it is to be commended. But the leadership role that the church is supposed to play is something they appear to have abrogated.
Sure.
And what they're doing now is catching up, but that is the problem. You're catching up when somebody else has taken over your role. And somebody else is considered more important than you in your own house.
We talked about this.
We talked
last time I was here.
Yes,
I think it was
yes,
early February.
Yes, and I expressed the same opinion.
Yeah, you did. And by the way, even that time I said, blame the church. Blame me. I'll accept where we are wrong. But you see, that time when I had spoken in January during my series of sermons, I looked like the devil. Even the clergy themselves were wondering, what is bothering the provost? And by the way, and I'll say this without trying to spiritualize anything, I actually felt in my spirit God telling me, speak. Because if you don't, at this point, it will come a time that you'll not be able to talk. I want to agree totally that it came a time when the church became too comfortable with the political class. We became too... And you know why? It is mostly to do with because they are maybe making a contribution to a project that we are doing. And there's a lot of projects that are happening in church. While it's a good thing, it brings a lot of competition, and you're looking for resources.
Yep.
So you start opening the secularization you're talking about. You start opening the space, and it becomes...
it takes over.
Yeah, it is taken over. Yeah. Yes, and I don't think it's too late.
No,
if you realize...
It isn't too late.
If you realize you've done something wrong, even as an individual or an institution, correct it.
Sure.
But now it will be tougher for the church.
Infinitely.
However, I think as you do that, it's also important for the church to introspect and ask yourself that the second A of the 4 A's, accountability. What role did the church play in the society finding itself where it is finding itself today? I'll give you the context of why I say this. I see this as the battle, for example, in what has been happening in our society between the evangelical and the Pentecostal. You, the evangelicals, with your set way of doing things and the way you speak to us as the congregants, we started seeing people leaving your churches to go into the other smaller churches and forming smaller breakaway churches that we now call Pentecostal churches. The thing that you talked about, agenda setting and awareness empowerment, is what they were not getting from these other churches, because these other churches are talking about prosperity gospel and telling us about our life and the way to live our life and how we can actually even get better in our lives. Why were people leaving your churches to go to these other churches? When they go to these other churches, those churches have the pressure of building churches as big as the All Saints Cathedral and others. So we have to bring in people to contribute for our Harambes. Politicians, come in. Introspection, accountability.
Indeed.
Provost.
You see, these 4 A's that I've talked about are not just about them. It's about each one of us. us as an institution, as a church, we also need to go through this. When I talk about accountability to a politician, I should introspect myself. Whether am I accountable? When we talk about awareness, we are not just telling them, but we are also making ourselves aware. So I hear what you're saying. But today, you'll see people coming to the traditional church, such as Moses is going to do soon, because he's realizing that actually, and here I'm not saying that that the Pentecostals are worse. No, not even the evangelicals and Catholics have their own. We have
everybody has their own issues.
Yes.
Actually, let me tell you, it's a societal problem.
Yes.
And the church doesn't exist outside of that society.
Yes.
So the same people I'm serving on a Sunday are the same people the politicians are targeting.
Yeah.
So I don't have my people. And and that's where, if we preach the true gospel, it cuts both sides.
Provost, you actually have your people. And I'm going to explain what I mean by this. When you have taught and trained your people well, even when they relate to politicians, it'll be from a certain position.
I agree. Totally.
Not a compromised one, which is what we're dealing with. And I'm coming from the position, this is what I think. I believe that you're talking about the Christian faith, the very ethos of it, it's supposed to be a resistant movement.
Exactly.
If you look at it and how it was constructed, that's what it is.
It's a liberation movement.
Yes, it is. I like the word resistance better, though. So,
it's
a liberation movement.
Theologically,
yes.
Liberation is better than resistance.
Resistance, yes.
But I agree totally.
Yes.
But you see what? I keep talking about All Saints Cathedral because that's where I'm sure. And that's where I've been, and that's where I'm responsible. Other pastors, to whom much is given, much will be required. I have made enough awareness to my members. I have taught them. I expect them to behave in a certain manner. But there's something I wanted to bring. While it is true that these things don't happen in the temples or in the mosques, they actually happen, but they happen differently. Their culture is slightly different. But isn't it a contradiction that a Muslim would come to the church to do politics? Haven't you seen some?
Yeah.
Because we allow them to do
Exactly. And I wanted to agree, that's how low we have accepted ourselves to go. That them they will not do wherever they are, but they can come to church and do it.
But they know in their own setup, they will not be allowed.
Now, what is required is churches working together. Denominationalism will not help in the resistance, if I use your word. We need to form strong alliances as Christians and define who we are and what is our role, and we become faithful to that. Now, lack of discipline then amongst the Christian denominations is one of the challenges we have to grapple with. But I could, because like what the Archbishop did on Sunday and what the Catholic Conference of Bishops did, I think what Monday?
Yes.
I would have expected the evangelical, the EAKs,
yes.
EAKs to come up. And then, instead of shooting too many bullets, why don't you come together, NCCK, EAK, Catholic Conference of Bishops, come together, speak with one voice, and say, we, the church. Now, extend it even further to other religious communities. Then make one stand as a religious community. That way, the religious community will influence the agenda
Provost,
of Kenya.
There's the assumption, though, that everybody then is speaking would be coming together with a unified voice. But even as we spoke with His Grace on Monday, and some of what we've heard from people is that some people, again, don't have an issue with this. He did tell us that he would like to urge members of other denominations to actually come into this. He did say this. However, are there not Are there not competing issues whereby there are some people who don't have a problem, even in the evangelicals, in other denominations, even within the Anglican Church, in other parts of the country, who don't have an issue, for example, taking contributions and being very loud about it, and then using that as an inroad to allow these speeches to take place in church. So coming together and say that there must be unification of purpose could go against the competing issue whereby some don't have a problem.
Can I add to something that you're saying there? Could I? May I? You see, we're looking at politicians as the enemy, and they're not.
And I think the enemy here is
probably it's
within.
Secularism, what the church refers to as the world. The world has gotten into the church and become the church. So when you allow politicians, it's not the politician's fault. The politician has just found space that he's been allowed to operate in.
Indeed.
And he will operate in that space.
What is this secularism? I want to throw in a completely dirty bone into this whole conversation.
Why don't you do just that?
You see, when you talk about like Christianity and the fragmentation of Christianity, you start from one big church and then you start going into the Anglican church and then you go now into breakaways. What is driving that? Every time there's such a splinter, the bigger one is left to brand those ones as being secular. And it's secularism that's driving them to come and splint.
Eric,
we see this. Yeah. Why is it that we see so much of splintering of the Christian faith into so many small denominations and even smaller churches that are just coming up every day? There's a church that's breaking away and breaking apart.
Eric, it happens to all religions.
Yes, but in this country, we see it a lot in terms of the Christianity, and you're going to tell me because of the higher numbers. But why is it that's happening?
I'm not even going to say it's because of the higher numbers.
So may I finish the point?
Please.
We have, for example, seen the big churches, Anglican, Catholic, PCA, AIC, the African Independence, and then nowadays we have every small manner of church coming up. That tells you something, and that's why I was saying, I think you need to step back and ask yourselves, why are people moving further and further away into their own small communions? Why are they doing that? And is it possible then to have one unifying message that brings them all together where they'll agree to everything that you're saying?
Did you want to say something about secularism?
Mr. Moses.
This name is going to stick and I'm going to blame you. The thing about secularism, it did not start in the 21st century. No. If you are a student of the Bible, no matter how peripheral, you will find that it's something that happened before. See, every setup on this planet survives because it has rules by which the members abide.
Yeah.
Whether it is parliament, whether it is your community, wherever you come from, whether it is the circle you belong to. Now, if I'm referring to the Christian faith, it has a set of rules by which it actually
operates.
Yes. Now, they are clear. The thing is, they are clear. What you are calling divisions is when opinions differ. And that is not necessarily a bad thing.
No.
Because what it does, it allows for the diversity that we call or we say we have as human beings. You will find, for instance, that many of the breakaway evangelical churches were once the members of those who supposedly broke away were domiciled in the Anglican Church. In fact, one could argue that the Anglican Church has been the biggest provider of these other, yes, you could argue, yes. So, and they don't preach anything different. Not really.
No.
Not really.
The style can change, but it's the same thing.
Yes.
But I wanted to help you and listeners to understand secularism. Secularism is what is outside of the Bible. And again, if you read the same Bible, you see attempts to bring ungodly standards into godly matters. And there is always pressure to do that. So secularism is something that happens. Look at even if the Muslim community. Today, they deal with matters of terrorism. It may not be a religious teaching, or if there is something small that is said there, somebody wants to radicalize
has
that.
Convoluted it.
Yes, and amplified it. So, human beings with our sinfulness, we are bound to do that. So, That is secularism.
As defined by those that are being left
Yes,
behind.
but I need to come now to the no. It's a general understanding, but I need to come now to the divisions in churches.
As we do that, Provost, we'd like to say goodbye to our audience on KTN,
Okay.
but also ask them to join the conversation on SpiceFM, because we are continuing this conversation on SpiceFM. If you're in Malindi, tune in. It's 97.7, Nyeri 90.9, 96.7 in Eldoret. Nakuru is 96.0. Kisumu 102.5 and 87.9, Mombasa 94.4 in Nairobi. We are having a conversation with the Provost of the All Saints Cathedral of the Anglican Church of Kenya, the Very Reverend Canon Sami Wainaina. A very good morning to you.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Forgiveness is always conditional. Even before God, there's nothing like unconditional forgiveness.
Government doesn't pay you pension until you retire. In fact, they have no money for you. The day you retire, they look for it.
This country is punishing many young people. These young people are more susceptible to be deceived, to be taken advantage of, and they're more susceptible to be bought off.
Let us also talk about where we want our country to go. You know, we are a population of very young people.
We're in a state of capture. The judiciary is under duress. Parliament is in the pocket of the executive. You don't sit and wait for the regime to topple itself. It will never do so.
By the way, let me tell you, these guys are so persuasive. I'm telling you, they can persuade you to sell your grandmother. I'm telling you, they can sell sand in the desert.
See, has anybody on this program said to you as a guest, saying, "Oh, shut up, we don't want to be told what to do"? Has you ever that kind of? Has anybody been
Listen, I will not listen.
Bit of advice, because you're working on the premise that we should all pay heed to these proverbs. It's a very suspect notion.
About 2.5 minutes to
This is the Situation Room.
We will, continue with this understanding of secularism, because that's what you were explaining as well. It's you're saying it's when worldly things start creeping into the religious space.
Yeah, and that's why I think there's a call to return to the Christian ethos that should guide us. The moment the church wants to accommodate everyone, even these political problems that we have in Kenya, it is in line with the gospel of accommodation. Let's make everybody feel comfortable. If we are guided by that, then everybody comes in. And that's why, and this is soon going to come to this country, if it's not here. If it's not here. No, maybe it's not yet institutionalized, but it's there. Matters of human sexuality. If it is allowed, if we are saying no to politicians, we must say no to anything that is anti-Bible. Can I say this? We don't, if you want to do your business that is not Christian, you don't need to practice it in the church. Otherwise, the church will stop being church and it will become everything. I know we would like to welcome everybody to the church, and we do. But if you come with your business, whether you are a politician, whether you are a humanist, human rights, whatever, there will be a place where we'll say the gospel doesn't support this. So we draw a line for everybody, not just for politicians. And by the way, CT, I agree with you. Politicians are our brothers and sisters.
They are the same. They are a reflection of who we are.
If they are corrupt, we have also made them corrupt.
And we've accepted them.
The society has corrupted our politicians. Can you imagine somebody, and now there are people who will, there will be a lot of money that will be dished out between now and August next year. Now, what the society doesn't know is that those guys are going to work hard for 5 years. They will be in positions of power
to recoup,
to milk
that money back.
to milk this country. So we are creating a vicious cycle.
Let's do the news and then we continue this conversation. A very good morning to you. It's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. Dennis Asseto. As conversation around the competency-based curriculum continues to be had across the country, the government will have to tell the court why the curriculum is good for the Kenyan child. This is after LSK President Nelson Harvey filed a lawsuit challenging its implementation. Harvey has filed the case on behalf of his client Esther Angawa, who says the implementation of the CBC is contrary to Section 41 of the Primary Education Act No. 14 of 2013. Included in the case is the Education CS Professor Sir George Magoha, Interior CS Dr. Fred Matiang'i, Teacher Service Commission KICD, NEC and the National Assembly. These CS George Magoha has maintained that the CBC is here to stay.
You go and look at the children from Mombasa to Kilifi to Siaya to Busia. The children are happy and I'm mutually attracted to the poor children. I don't go to the children of the vice president because I know the vice president can afford to do anything she wants. So I go to the slum in the Kibiras of this world, in Kiandutu. How are the children being handled in CBC? Are they happy? If they are happy and we have a children's rights, ladies and gentlemen, are we right to say that you want to go to court when we already have 5 million children happy to engage? They enjoy what they are doing.
We expect to receive the first consignment of Pfizer vaccines later today. Healthiest Muthui Kagwe and US Ambassador to Kenya Eric Nidler will be at JKIA to receive the vaccine donations at 2 p.m. Tomorrow at 6 a.m. the government will also receive the first consignment of Sinopharm vaccine from China. This coming days after Health CAS Masi Mangangi said that the government was set to receive the vaccines that are going to enable the country achieve the 10 million target.
We are optimistic that we'll be able to hit our targets. Largely in terms of, the national vaccine program, right now we're actually anticipating to receive Pfizer vaccines. Within this week to next week, we should be having the Pfizer vaccine in the country. And we're also anticipating to receive the Sinopharm vaccine again in the coming week or two. And so really in terms of stocks, we are happy. We should be able to meet our targets that we've shared with you, 10 million doses by December.
Meanwhile, we reported 511 new COVID-19 infections in the last 24 hours based on a test sample size of 7,955. The Ministry of Health says the new infections had a positivity rate of 6.4%. Total confirmed positive cases are now 245,337. Now, religious leaders in Baringa County have expressed support for the proposed ban on politics in churches. Deliverance Church pastor in Kabarnet Rashid Muduma has said that politicians should not talk about politics within the church but attend services like other believers.
Kiongozi wa SK kutoa ripoti kwamba wao wanapiga marufuku wanasiasa kufanya siasa kwa pulpit. Mimi pia namuunga mkono, lakini hatuwakatazi wanasiasa kuja pale kanisani. Kwa makanisa yetu tunawakaribisha waje washiriki pamoja na sisi, lakini si lazima wapewe nafasi, au hata kama watapewa nafasi iwe ni nafasi ya ushuhuda, isikuwe nafasi ya siasa na kuanza kutukanana kwa madhabahu.
Muduma also criticized politicians for not being civilized when attending church services and not following the rules and schedule.
Jambo ambalo linashangaza ni kwamba wakati wanakuja pale wale wanasiasa, wengi hawana ustaarabu. Wanawasukuma watu wamekaa pale kanisani vizuri, wanasukumwa pale na wale mabodyguard, nakuta viongozi wanatolewa pale mbele wanarudishwa nyuma ili wale wanasiasa na mabodyguard wao wakae pale mbele. Hii si nzuri. Wakija waje kama washirika wengine kwa sababu wao pia ni washirika kama washirika wengine.
To some business news, and Kenya Breweries Limited through its brand Tusker has kicked off the second phase of the Raising the Bar Recovery program. The program is targeting 850 bars and eateries across the country by the end of November 2021. The outlets will be provided with COVID-19 safety equipment, merchandise, training and other incentives as they seek to create a safe environment in line with the COVID-19 pandemic safety measures and protocol. To sport, and Euro 2020 finalist England pushed world champions France out of the top 3 in World Soccer Body FIFA's latest men's soccer rankings. Belgium remained the top-ranked side, followed by Brazil. European champions Italy, on a record unbeaten international run of 37 matches, are 5th with Argentina 6th. Kenya moved 2 places up from position 104 to 102. The same spot it occupied in April and May. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Asseto. .4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, so there was a terrible accident on Outer Ring this morning. It doesn't look really good, and now we're suffering the dregs of that. Quite some traffic Outer Ring, then going out towards that Donholm exchange. It is not a pretty sight. Traffic now in both directions, in and outbound. So if you're on that road, that's exactly what happened about an hour ago, and it's still affecting traffic up until now, and we can see the result of that. Inbound traffic on Mombasa Road is not too bad right now. The ICD route is giving guys a good reprieve off of the traffic that is Mombasa Road. Wilson around on Langata Road, that continues even till now, and we're still seeing some traffic. Lunga, then spilling over to the Likoni Exchange on Mombasa Road as well. Mombasa Road is taking some hits today. After Uhuru Highway, it continues through to Haile Selassie, after that through to the University Way roundabout, and then beyond to Westlands. Traffic outbound Westlands also still continues. It was looking better on the Thika Superhighway, but now it seems to be spilling over beyond Survey again. Something's going on there. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Let's see in a few minutes if this looks better. Text on 40127. We'll take a look in about half an hour and see what it looks like.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
7 after 9. Very good morning to you, and we thank you very much for keeping it locked on Spice FM. We're broadcasting on Spice FM and around the world. In the Situation Room is Eric Latif, Nduoko, Provost Samuel Naina, and Moses.
Okay.
I've just gone in the order hierarchy. Starting from the lowest to the highest.
Okay.
Moses is the highest.
Yes.
Nyuat, Mara, and Kidimat. Success is not accidental. You must put in a lot of effort.
Nyuat, Mara, and Kidimat.
Yes.
It's a very nice one. Samburu proverb.
Samburu proverb.
The conversation with the provost of the All Saints Cathedral continues, and we'll be opening up the phone lines as well at some point. Church politics, where does the Kenyan church draw the line? And where did the rain start beating us? I think that's a part of the conversation that we're having. At what point do we get to a place where in the society, people even feel that what their clergy is telling them, we can put it aside. The politician can get more minutes
You know, it's actually very
to speak to us.
It's actually very innocuous. Huh? It's not even threatening, because as we're speaking, my mind went back to the days when I was a child, growing up, and I'd go to visit my grandparents at home. Every Christmas, there was always an auction. Every Christmas. And it was just villagers contributing to that auction because we wanted to build the church.
Yep.
Okay? Somebody comes with
bananas,
banana,
chicken,
You've got
eggs.
it. You've got it. And the church got built. Then we do the same Arambe now for the seating.
Kuna munada.
Yes, exactly. I couldn't have envisioned a situation where such an auction becomes a political rally. I had not seen it. And if you look at many of the things we're talking about, it actually begins with something, as the provost mentioned, something very well-meaning. You know, we have a guest. Eh?
Yeah.
Can you just say hello? And in most cases, they would actually just do that and say, hello, how are you? I'm so-and-so, thank you. Sits down. Many churches today will say, those who are visiting us for the first time, could you please stand up?
Yep.
As is the practice.
Yes.
Every worship
We
day.
welcome them.
Yes, and you're welcomed. And you're told there's a tent there where you can go and drink tea as you chit-chat with so-and-so. But then, that got hijacked. So you're asking when the rain started beating us. It is that when you have things that are as good as that, it's vigilance. The rain started beating us when we stopped being vigilant.
You know, we've been talking, I mean, for not just today, about the positions that leaders in the church should take, the position that politicians should take, what we are saying you should not be able to do in church, what we are saying leaders in church ought to do, whether it is in their particular parish or whether it is in the brotherhood of denominations, right? What are the congregants, who in most cases are the audience here, whether it is being addressed by politicians, whether they are being addressed by leaders in the church, what position should the congregation, should the audience take in these matters? I come to church on a Sunday morning, for example, or on a Saturday, whatever the case may be, and this is what I'm greeted with. What position am I supposed to take? We've said that Kenyans like this circus, this drama. They like it, follow with rapt attention. But what position should we take? Because I think we hear the responses are divided. Some people say, yes, let them come and address us in church.
Yeah.
Others say, no, I've come to worship. Monday to Saturday, I can hear that somewhere else. But should there be a global attitude towards this?
It's very hard to create cultures. But from my experience working in the church, I have seen if leaders want to create a godly culture, they can. People tend to see your behavior, your mannerisms over time, and they realize this is the right culture or this is the way to do things. Let me give an example. Why is our schools like Kenya High such top schools? It's not that they are not government schools, but what have they done is to create a culture over time, and when you enter there, you are told this is the way
we do things.
Let me give you another example. Nairobi Primary, my son was there when he was younger. It is actually a public school, but it has carried with itself certain decorum and way of doing things that you would go there and think this is actually private school, or Starehe, or Alliance, and the others. They have done, and the principal there, and the teachers, and the parents have played a certain role in upholding the ethos of that school. To me, the buck stops with the leadership. Before, you come to church, why? You think there is your pastor there, and there's a certain way he should be able to behave. And he has done that over time, that it has created a culture. The problem that we have today, even as we talk about church and politics, actually are the leaders, the church leaders themselves. It is me who allows, it is me who should not allow, it is me who sends. Like at All Saints Cathedral, I don't talk about who came. Simply, I welcome people, and I know you come to All Saints. Eric and City needs some help somewhere. But I will just welcome people.
Oh, I'm going to use this for a very long time.
I will welcome people, and I see if the governor came, and I say, we have the governor with us today, welcome. Full stop, and I move on. It's not that I'm disrespectful to them. I can recognize them if I am able. If I'm not able, they shouldn't take offense. So it's actually the congregants are recipients. Here it is the leaders.
The clergy.
The clergy. If you see, and unfortunately, we need to be truthful as a society because we see these things happening. A politician shows up in a church and a fundraising ensues. So they even as we blame the politicians, how do you see me? And you create a situation.
Yeah, there's need. We've been having this project.
But a politician is an employee. Just like I am an employee and you are an employee.
Right.
Why should you create a fundraising around me? The church should stop such things.
So the leadership.
And by the way, we don't need mega churches. We don't need mega projects. If you're not able to do them, it's fine. I think this competition in the name of prosperity and secularism that is coming to the church is not important. But can I say about the believers themselves?
Yeah.
And I want to address Christians, this nation. If we don't draw a line as believers, we will be blamed. And I liked what Citi said off the cuff, that the problem that we have in this country is we want everybody to be the same. In the gospel, actually it's Acts of the Apostles, the reason why they were called Christians in Antioch is because they behaved like Christ. They were distinct.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, a quotation that I read, that when you put salt in food, it doesn't become foody. It remains distinct. Believers, there is no dichotomy moving forward. If you are a Christian, be a Christian and behave like one. And I also saw something recently. There was a topic in a church that church begins tomorrow. That is Monday. In other words, church is not Sunday. Church begins tomorrow, which is Monday. And the message that the preacher wanted to tell people is, church is not today. Today is just the gathering of the people. For them to be charged by the message of the gospel so that tomorrow, Monday, they can be able to practice exactly that. So don't blame our politicians. They are our product. We, as a nation.
But then, that points to evolution of societies, and it happens, Provost. It happens all the time. So should the church leadership also be aware and read as the society is evolving and adapt to that? For example, this Christianity that we're talking about, and you're saying they were referred to as Christians in Antioch because they behaved like this gentleman who was called Jesus Christ. When he was going around in his 30s and he's been taken by his cousin to a river and dipped and come out and said they've been baptized, that was odd. That's not what was happening then. But then they started this evolution and people started listening to them. Why were people listening to them? Because the message that Jesus was giving the people sounded different and sounded what? Also in touch with their realities. These high priests in the synagogue were way up there and they were stuck into one way of doing things. This is how things are done. If you don't like it, you are a sinner and everything else. And when Jesus started bringing Christianity, what did they say? He's bringing secularism into the synagogue.
Now, you've used the word revolution of societies.
Evolution.
Evolution.
Yes.
Let me use evolution. But I want to give you a few examples. There are certain ways we must accept evolution. We must also conscientize ourselves as church to know what is happening in the society. Remember, we don't just create political dialogues. We also create other dialogues in church.
Yep.
The same gospel we are talking about that can liberate people or can bring resistance, according to Moses, is the gospel also has been used in a bad way to subjugate people. Look at how the Bible, the theologians of those days interpreted matters of black people. They were called Hamites because they came from Ham and they were slaves. And that's how colonialists came trying to subjugate the Hamites. Look at the Dutch Reformed Church in South Africa. What did they use to subjugate and justify their actions against the Africans? Was the same gospel. But just like poison from a snake, the medicine is in the same poison. The gospel was used to liberate the same people in South Africa. In other words, when the word is preached and preached well with sensitivity that is required, it has power to sensitize people, liberate people, and be able to set the agenda. Therefore, to now address your question, it is indeed very true that Jesus Christ did things differently, and pastors should be dynamic. But the truth doesn't change. When the woman is caught in adultery and brought to Jesus, Jesus accommodated. What accommodation in this context meant, welcomed the sinner. But what were the parting words?
Go and sin no more.
You see, that is liberating. You don't just condemn people. What do you do? And that's how we are trained. To receive people. Listen to them. Empathize with them. But help them to set them free. So the gospel doesn't enslave you. And pastors who use the gospel to enslave their congregants are actually going against the same principle of the gospel. Our work is to set people free. Can I bring a quick one? In my 25 years of ministry, I had never met somebody who was gay. And I studied abroad, and nobody had ever come to confess to me such things. Last year, I think, or year before, somebody looks for me, and I think he had been told, you go, see the provost, he'll listen. And I had just given him some 30 minutes to listen to him. Because I didn't know the agenda per se. I ended up listening to him for 2 hours. What was I doing? I was being accommodative. I was listening to a human being, because you don't see a sinner first. Jesus never saw people as sinners first. He knew they were sinners, but he was willing to listen to them, but at the end, liberate them. I've just used human sexuality as an example. There are many, many problems that people carry. The church should accommodate, but that doesn't mean you lower your standard. You maintain the gospel standard, which sets people free. Remember, I have no power to set people free, to liberate them outside of the gospel.
Provost, are there parallels then that you can draw between this lowering of standards, whether it is in the church, and then see what is happening in the country then when it comes to leadership and the things that we have seen? For me, there's a reason why politicians choose the church to come.
Captive audience.
Absolutely. And also, there is that assumption, conscious or latent, that these individuals, these congregants will not question your intention. So we can see the same thing when it comes to the leadership of the country, that people will not question this thing that you're coming to tell them that they're going to do for you.
Them
accountable.
Hardly.
So can we not draw parallels between the lowering of standards that you're talking about that has taken place in the church and what is taking place in the country at large, which could deepen our problems even more?
Did you want to?
Yes, I mean, I wanted to just say that if you just pause for a second and consider, the church is just about, or let me say religious leaders or religions are just about the biggest influences that we have had. I've phrased this correctly, have had. That politicians have gotten to a point where they appear to be greater influencers is because they have understood that the role that religion plays in people's lives. So when they align themselves with religion, they then become extremely powerful influencers. Because as we speak now, there are very, very few institutions where the leadership of the institutions can actually talk to congregants, and the congregants listen, believe, understand, and follow.
Yeah.
The church happens to be, or religious organizations happen to be some of those institutions.
Or maybe the only.
What is unfortunate is that politicians have also acquired that position. This is what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
And they have understood this move towards every other day. Some religious leader, some politician is in some religious setup or the other. It's not accidental.
No.
They know and they understand. Beyond the captive audience, they're not captive because of the politician. They're captive because that institution.
The context.
Yes.
This is what I'm saying, that they then feel as though they can come there because, number one, this is the place where, because we know, for example, now, talk to anybody. The two people that will never be questioned in your life are your doctor and your pastor. What they say, essentially, no pun intended, is gospel truth, right? So, in that situation whereby people are listening and are held captive and are not asking questions, is where now there's been the permeation of politicking.
Therefore, the politician comes to that context, which doesn't question the leaders. And because of their public influence, if they are accepted within religion, as City said, they become very, very powerful.
They're extremely powerful.
Yeah, and politicians are wise people. And by the way, let's not talk of politicians as if they are away from
Martians.
us. City, tomorrow you can choose to go into political leadership.
Actually, I am I'm actually a politician.
Maybe you are even considering.
No. I'm a self-confessed politician.
I am a politician.
Good.
All of us are political. We have our own persuasions in matters of politics. But when I use my position now and use particular space to be able to do my politics, then that's where we go wrong. I think the message that we've gotten here is, who come to church on a Sunday? They should be worshippers. Full stop. The moment politicians think they didn't come just as worshippers, they also came as so-and-so, then the problem begins. Or clergy see them as opportunities to raise funds, again, problem begins. So,
Reverend, you know there's something we forget here. There is no politician who's born old. In this country, they are young and many of them grow up in churches. So they actually understand the wherewithals of these institutions extremely well. Many of them even have a focus on infinity and will tell you that they are born again.
Yeah.
Now, you're not dealing with somebody who is approaching an institution from a position of ignorance. No. It's from a position of knowledge.
And they also know where.
Yes.
Because I have politicians who attend All Saints.
Yes.
I see them in every service.
They sit in the same spot.
Well, they choose. I don't have reserved seats in the cathedral.
No.
But I see them in every service. Why don't they demand to talk at All Saints? They know.
Of course they do.
But they want to go somewhere else where it is allowed. In other words, what we are saying here is that clergy, if they played their important role very well, they can create culture. And you see, I think what the Archbishop may have seen is the agitation that must have been in Butere. I'm just trying to interpret.
In the run-up to the date.
Yes. I can imagine those politicians had come with certain intentions and even brought their own congregation.
Or they had. And
I want to imagine so.
Do you know the people who are there, many of them were pulled by the politicians.
Yeah. Our politicians in Kenya, our politics in Kenya are politics of violence. And the perpetrators of that violence are tribal leaders. Let me call them so. And the worst are the big communities in this country. And that's why I wasn't pro-BBI. With all the good that it was intended to bring to the people, in my interpretation, it was about the big five communities sharing the positions at the top. And that's why, personally, and that was my personal reflection, that was not good for this country. You are lying to us. And I couldn't accept the lie to continue. And I said, reggae must stop in church. Thank you that some of us have been vindicated by what has happened.
The two rulings, judgments.
Yes, let's see what happens moving forward. But I don't think it was right. So it's politics of violence perpetuated by tribal chiefs. And what they do is, closer to the election, they flame the fire so much that this country becomes very, very divided. And so clergy, with all the good intentions that you have, if you have ever allowed them to do that, this is the worst time for you to allow such thing to happen. And we need to do exactly that.
Gospel versus politics, that's the conversation we're having. Where does the Kenyan church, draw the line? We want to open up the phone lines and hear from you after the break. 0719-012-600. As we take this break, Ndu, what is Kenywa Muredi Jr. saying?
Okay, he says, I have issues with the church and especially the Catholic ACK and other mainstream churches for being part of the oppressors in the country. They have not come out strongly to fight the rot in the government and in the community. Judgment and bills are being passed by government without a question, since church is a government that is run directly by Wanjiku.
There you go. I want to hear your perspectives as well. 0719 012 600. It's 9:30. Good morning.
No, you know, this wheelbarrow, how can you give people wheelbarrow? His party symbol is an umbrella. Is he distributing umbrellas in Makueni?
My goodness gracious me. Hey?
You try and call them the same person who was in your house every day because they know you are influential and you will give them votes. Call them after 1 month and see if they'll pick up their phone.
Don't tell your member of parliament that you want him to come and build a school, you want him to come and do a hospital. That is not the work of the member. Now that we have devolution in this country, these resources should go to those devolved units.
You have to have strong, independent institutions. And I mean, you have to have police who has the right to take the biggest town in the country and question, why did you do this and that, and send them to court if necessary.
Social media was on fire.
Yes.
Every 5 or so minutes, some motorbike guy would come in, put his 20 bob play, take off again. So I decided, let me put my 20 bob also and see. And I put 20 bob. It came. This is a dusty little village, and I'm thinking, there's slot machines in this place.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
It's 60 degrees in Nairobi today, highs of 26 and lows of 15. See those cloudy conditions for most parts of the day. All right. In Nyeri town today, 19 degrees, cloudy conditions, highs of 25 and lows of 15. Mostly sunny conditions in Nakuru at 19, highs of 25 and lows of 15. Kisumu mostly cloudy at 24, highs of 27 and lows of 19. And Kakamega mostly cloudy at 25. It'll come down to lows of 16 and highs of 27. Mombasa today is still raining at 27, highs of 29 and lows of 23. And it's sunny in Malindi at 28, highs of 29 and lows of 25. All right, let's take a look then. Eldoret, can't forget, 18 degrees, highs of 23 and lows of 14. Taking a look out into Kampala, it's cloudy at 23. We'll see highs of 28. And Dar es Salaam, mostly sunny at 26 with highs of 30. It'll come down to lows of 21. Johannesburg is mostly cloudy at 10, highs of 23 and lows of 9. Lagos, sunny at 25, highs of 31 and lows of 25. And 24 degrees and cloudy in Kinshasa. With highs of 30, it'll come down to lows of 23. Out quickly into Beijing, it's 28 and sunny. That'll be the high for today and lows of 17. Big Ben is tolling at 14. Sunny conditions in London at 22. That'll be the high, coming down to lows of 14. Paris is cloudy at 12. That'll be the low, going to highs of 23. New York, ringing in Friday at 22. Highs of 25 and lows of 21.
Spice up your life.
Once you get past General Motors on Mombasa Road today, you're going to get towards the Nyeri Stadium roundabout without too much of a hiccup. And then, boom, Uhuru Highway all the way into the city, out to Westlands, in and outbound. A lot of traffic still. And that's moving along slowly. Anybody who's trying to get into the city, coming from Mombasa Road, the Southern Bypass is your friend. Use the Southern Bypass. The longer route, but then you can go via Gong Road because Langata Road is still continuing to do its thing today. The traffic that is on Gong Road is looking better now. Coming out of Limuru Road, getting into the city, where we're seeing most of the traffic today is right smack dab in the middle of the city. Let's keep an eye on these things as well as the Thika Superhighway, which continues to feed off into the CBD with some traffic. We're out of traffic hour soon. Let us know what it looks like in your neck of the woods through the day. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
Spice and everything nice. All right.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4
All right,
Spice
25 to 10, Kenya's biggest conversation. As we close the week, speak to the Provost, Sami Wainaina of the All Saints Cathedral. Church, state, okay. Gospel, politics, where do we draw the line? Where do we draw the line between these two? Where does each of them play? The Provost said, in fact, there are 4 A's. The role of the church. 1 is setting the agenda. The 2nd is accountability and calling to account all the leadership and all of us as people. What do we do? Calling ourselves to account. Awareness, creation, and that's empowerment. That's informing people. And the 4th A is agreement, promotion, dialogue, diplomacy, making sure that there is a cohesive existence of the people in the country. Those are the 4 A's. How do we draw the line between gospel and politics and among all those? Let's hear from you. 0719-012-600. Frederick in Mombasa, good morning.
Hi, Eric. Good morning, and the team.
Good morning to you, Frederick.
Good morning. Yeah, it has been a while. Actually, I moved out of Mombasa. I'm in Nairobi.
Oh, Karibu.
And while I was away, City became Moses. That is encouraging to hear.
On your way to Nairobi, City went to Mount Sinai.
Exactly. Say hi to the right provost there, Canon.
He is the provost.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Now, my contribution is this. I've listened to the conversation, and I think the church is trying slowly to wake up from the deep slumber that it was in. Because you see, when you are asleep and you wake up, you can decide to wake up and still remain lying in bed. And when someone talks, you say, "I'm awake, I can hear you." And you can wake up, sit, or wake up and walk straight. The church has woken up, but then it needs to start walking, because just barring the politicians from speaking in church, it's a drop in the ocean. The church lost its ground just way before 2007, 2008. We've never had the church speak about the evil that the society is experiencing. Before 2017 election, we had some deaths. There is a bishop who died in Kisumu. He was killed. The church never said anything. We had Musando being killed. The church never commented, and it was nearing an election. The church has always been praying and watching in silence instead of coming out there and speak. I envy the times of Ndingi Mwananzeki, the Cardinal Otunga, and those people who could come out and say, these are wrong. People are getting extrajudicial killings. The church is mum on it. So now they've seen that 2022 is around the corner, and they are afraid of some skirmishes which might arise because of the deputy and the president not getting on well and their supporters. So now they've woken up. But I want to challenge them to go further.
Go further.
Exactly.
Go beyond what you're doing.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, Frederick.
Thank you.
0719-012-600. Let's hear from you. What do you think? Where do we draw the line? You know, as we're talking about this, you've mentioned the Archbishop Manasseh Kuria. We've talked about Ndingi Mwananzeki. We've talked about Okulus and the others. During that period of the agitation, where the church leaders would come out strongly to speak, the Reverend Mutava Musiemi even coming and leading in Ufungamano initiative and conversations about changing the constitution. Do you think that's a time when, because of this new agitation for leadership, the church also welcomed politicians to the pulpit, opposition politicians to come and amplify this message of accountability and calling and demanding for good governance? And that just didn't happen. The clergy sat, the politician was left standing.
As I comment on that, let's also define church. Because, Frederick, I respect your views and you're right. However, who is the church? The church has two faces. One is the body corporate. That is with the leaders. But the church is also that individual. What do, you as an individual believer at your level? Because you can imagine if the church corporate played its role, and I'm coming to that, leaders played their role, and then you had the believers, the worshippers themselves, playing their role. Let me ask you, who kills the other during violent times? Are we not the ones who kill each other?
Yep.
Do you know, even during those times that Frederick is talking about, you would leave the church together, people of different communities, and that very evening you knew we were going to attack the home of so-and-so, yet you are worshippers in the same church.
Yeah.
So the leader may not be, we are not a police that we will even know that evening you are going to kill each other. Yet you as a believer walked from church, went home, knowing that evening your community was to go to attack the other. If we are true Christians in this nation, we also have individual responsibility. And by the way, that is also our work to remind you, play your role. If the church slept, believers slept. Actually, maybe it began there. When believers go cold, the entire church goes cold. Let me come now to the body corporate, which is the leadership. The contexts have changed sincerely. The context of Akinanjoya, Muges, and the others are slightly different. During those days, they were the voice of the people. Today, the voices of the people are many. Politically, the Constitution gives the opposition the opportunity to hold the government into check.
Yep.
Now, do you know why you're hearing even the church coming stronger now? It's because the role they had played during the KANU regime, the opposition came in and started playing that role.
Yep.
Rightfully, that is actually their role. It is when they don't play their role that the church comes out forcefully. The opposition in this country have failed us. There are a number of institutions that are supposed to hold this country together. One is the executive. Unfortunately, the executive now has been extended into the opposition. While the handshake has done a good thing in bringing down the political temperatures, actually, it has killed the role of the opposition. When I see people like Orengo, for example, playing the other side, I ask, when did you forget that you're not part of the executive? You should be playing your role. So in those days of KANU, the government needed check, and the only hope was actually the religious community. Today, you have diverse voices. Everybody has a role. And now with the opening up of the FM stations and the internet, the voices are more.
But still with a government that needs check.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So while the church needs to play a role in holding the executive, now the other one that has failed us badly is Parliament. Parliament, that today it has become an extension of the executive, that they cannot be able to stand and hold the government accountable. Actually, the only institution in this country, if we don't uphold it, is the judiciary. If we don't uphold it, it's the only hope. Because when we differ with Moses, they are the only ones who can say, this is the ruling. And they do it independently. And you know what? There is a push towards a compromised judiciary. So it is true. The church may have gone into slumber, whether in terms of leadership, but also individual believers. But we can't keep complaining about what we have failed to do. Because if we didn't do, we may not have done it. But also let's blame also the media. The media will only cover what a politician said. Rarely.
While in church.
Oh, yes. Whether in church or elsewhere, rarely will they cover what a clergy said.
The other voices.
Surely, the media and the church needs to work together. They also went into political slumber as well.
Let's go back to the lines. John in Elbagon. Good morning.
Morning.
Wait, John of Nairobi, formerly of Elbagon.
Yes. Morning, everybody, and good morning, Moses.
John, I hear you.
Yes.
And good morning to you, my brother.
Yes. Now, there's this famous saying that when the tides go down, you know who has been swimming naked.
Mm-hmm.
And every 4 years, there's this cycle. Tides go down, and we know who has been swimming naked. And the church, it always comes back every 4. It's not that these things don't happen during or when there is no electioneering. They happen. The politicians go to church, they give money, they support. But just 1 year before election is when now it is amplified and it becomes more. But these are things which happen throughout the years. But something Moses brought up, internal vigilance.
Did I not tell you this, Eric? You see now, John, who used to refer to me as CT, is now determined that my name is Moses. And there are people who are going to tune into this station today and think I'm actually called Moses.
Yes.
Since we are pushing the blame, Eric, I will blame you. But John, please continue.
Yes, internal vigilance. It is important. It is important. And All Saints, Rev, they have done very well. I'll give you another example. Just another church on Valley Road, Stitam, they have also done very well. You will go there as a politician. Even during those days, Mo used to go there. He never used to speak during the service.
Yep.
So it is leadership. There's no question about that. It will depend who is the leader. And I want to ask Rev a question as I finish. Because this is something that the church for a long time has evaded. Is there a point that the church will reach and pinpoint and tell the congregants among your 4 A's that don't vote for this particular person because we know him, he's corrupt, because we know him, he's involved in things which are not right? Just not general. You just pinpoint and you say A, B, and C, don't vote for these people because we know them. Can the church reach to that point?
Can the church get completely activist and say, this is it? Chapter 6 of the Constitution.
Yes, but not general.
Okay.
You name them because we know them.
Yeah.
Oh, you know them.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Karanja, good morning.
Good morning, Eric Kidu and City there.
Good morning.
Good morning, Karanja.
And Reverend Samuel Nena.
Good morning.
Actually, Right Reverend, not just Reverend.
Very.
No, very.
The very Reverend.
Right Reverend is
the bishop.
The boss.
Yes.
The most.
Okay, the Right Reverend.
I'm actually being prophetic here. Yes, go on.
Yes, Karanja.
Yes.
Now, we see there was days. We had Timothy Joy and Mr. Betari who are very good in pushing the government and making sure that the constitution and even the rights of the people were being well catered for. Now, Ruku in South Africa, Desmond Tutu did it very well during the apartheid in South Africa. The church is a part of the civil society. They really actively they were involved in the constitution making. Now, how comes that the church is a society, the church is a society, for instance? How comes that the church does not play the critical role in making that the Mwananchi, who is a congregant in the church, has the opportunity for the, how comes that the church does not empower the Mwananchi? Thank you very much.
All right. Zachary, good morning.
Oh, good morning. Good morning.
How are you?
Fine, thank you. And I say hi to our man of God, Mr. Lev Kalanja.
Wainaina.
Lev Wainaina, sorry.
Yes.
And let me congratulate him and tell him that they are doing good work. And he is in the company of a very smart company. They are including Moses and various known as Abraham and Morimadru. Those are his names. Now, let me say this. That the most important things that Lev has said is that, one, let the politicians be told that they are not the ones who sustain the church. And I tend to think that they have a duty to guide us, because I said last time that most of us Christians are very fanatical. We are also hypocritic, because we say this and we do this. And the church has to call out these people who are actually misleading the congregation. And Mr. Eric, may I tell you who is a politician? Who is a politician, actually? Because all these people are amongst our brothers and sisters. They are neighbors, they are fellow schoolmates. Today, if I decided to now start a movement that is calling out to these young boys who are snatching people's wives, and I have people who have got who are going to listen to me, I definitely become a politician. You know, and I'm going to be seen as a person who is thinking above the rest. And these people, if I find that I've got a larger following, they'll start telling me, not only that, we have got a church there that requires some bit of parts so that we can build a good pulpit.
So who is a politician?
We also have got, I become a politician, definitely. And let me tell you this before I finish very quickly, because I know there are others. Let me use the analogy of a child who decides that they are going to be doing tantrums, especially the last boys. We call them in some other quarters, Rakore. You have seen that in the internet, yeah? These people can give you, these children, kids can give you problems because they think that life revolves around them. If you give him a chance, that he says, okay, I want chips, and it is in the middle of the night, I want chips and sausage and the cuckoo. And you show him that you are trying to put effort to fulfill his demands. Tomorrow he will ask you for you slaughter a cow, and that he wants beef at 2 a.m. So we are the ones who have entertained.
So we should not entertain them.
Yeah, we shouldn't, and they should not be given a chance to speak in church, only greeting people and saying how the Lord has been good to them, and should they engage in hate speech. The churches should disown them and tell them, you are a member of our church, yes, we agree, but then what you said does not represent our views and our stand, and therefore we are disowning you. We are excommunicating you.
Thank you, Zachary. Have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Asante. Irongo Amos in Kisii.
Yes, good morning, City, Indu, Moses, and the very reverend.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Moses, you will have to come to terms with that is your name.
I know when I'm being dictated to, and I want you to also experience when you're being resisted. Please
Okay,
go on, Mwalimu.
I have no problem with that.
Yes.
Now, my contribution is that the clergy has done well to bar the politicians from taking over the matters of the church when they come. But we must all agree, and I want to address the very reverend very, very, very seriously, that what you are doing is coming too late in the day. Other members of the clergy have been collecting funds in terms of projects and what have you from the politicians throughout all this time. The pronouncement to bar them is too little, too late.
Why do you say it's too little, too late, Mwalimu?
Because this thing of these guys coming to church and addressing them did not start yesterday, it did not start last year. We've seen them, even politicians themselves have been complaining against one another that so and so goes to church and does this and that. And these guys have been mum on it. So for them to come when we have a few months to elections and tell us that they are now barring them, that one is not enough.
It's an entrenched culture.
Are you suggesting they should just allow them then?
No. I agree that what they have done is right, but something which should have been done early. Last but not least,
The vigilance.
As they tell us that they want to mediate the president and the deputy president, why, when we are approaching the elections, Why, when these guys have been quarreling from 2018, and probably this has hindered service delivery to the electorate, the citizens of this country. You want to unite them now when we are just months away from the election. We can read some sinister motive in that. I rest my case.
Thank you, Mwalimu. Where do you want to start?
I think the word that has come strongly is vigilance. That the church should not just wait towards the end of an election period to come out strongly. And that one, I think it's a good message to the church. However, it's like people are interested in matters of leadership and governance and politics when it is closer to the time. Back to our January discussion. That time, I sounded like...
You sounded like Noah.
A lone voice.
A lone voice.
In the wilderness.
And I was judged. The same people today who can say that may have judged or misjudged me badly in January. But today, they feel like the church has done something. We have been vigilant. We have spoken about this. And by the way, we don't need to preach about politics every Sunday. We need to empower our Christians to live their Christian lives from Monday. I think to me that's where the weakness is. This dichotomy of I'm a Christian because I'm in a suit on a Sunday or I drove to church. In fact, what COVID has taught us now is church may not be the physical church now. Now, the church has become bigger. And the two lessons I've picked very quickly during COVID. Number one is my church members today are not Anglicans. They are members. Wherever. I meet Catholics, I meet Pentecostals who tell me that you are our pastor. I asked him, where? Oh, no, we follow you on television. And I say, you see what, you have no control. The second thing that I've learned is that giving doesn't need to be announced. And I think that's also what we shouldn't forget. The Archbishop didn't just say no to politicians. He also said no to the gimmicks of fundraising, that it should be, now it can go quiet. And I can tell you, over 90% of the funds that we receive at All Saints, I can imagine they don't just come from Anglicans.
Sure.
They come from worshippers. And so even those politicians can support a church because they are also believers. But they don't need to have some drama around it.
Don't need to do the way we do it.
No, but vigilance is the word that I have had. Would rather be blamed for doing something too little, too late. But to me, this is not little. What we are doing is a lot. It's 1 year to the election, or let's say 10 months. We can change the narrative between now and then. However, after that, continue empowering and sensitizing people. There was a question, Eric, whether one day I will announce, Eric,
don't
Latif, no. Now, although the church is also involved in advocacy and activism, it's not to that level. Now, Kenyans are funny people. They want the church to announce the thief.
But they know the thief.
And Frederick, if you know the thief, please also at your level announce the thief. I may announce the big thief at the top because I have a platform, but also you know thieves in your places of work, in the villages. And thieving begins with chicken and it continues now all the way up. And I said in January that Kenyans are all thieves minus opportunities. We may be condemning the politicians today. There will be a new set of politicians that will come next year. If we give thieves, let me tell you, they will steal this nation. And so, yes, we will talk about the qualities And I wish we implemented Chapter 6 of this Constitution.
Canon, thank you very much for joining us today. It's 10. Can you imagine? Yeah. Time for us to go and have a lovely weekend and wait for the sermon on Sunday. And church begins on Monday. Today's proverb was Nyuat Mara Ngirimat.
Yes.
Okay. It's 10 o'clock. Good morning.